Okay, so we're live. So we're gonna do little introductions first, and then do whatever. So up
Nice.
first is Fish, and then it'll be Joe, and then it'll be John, and then if Jamal comes back in, then him.
Alrighty. Well, I am Mr. Fish of Mr. Fish Comics. I am an illustrator of many awesome comics. I've worked on the Sentinels and the Power Company. Right now, we've got the first issue of Kevin Terry's 5-star on Kickstarter. It's got a couple of days left on it, going through FSK Comics. I've got a book coming out in April of my own, Green Zone, that's written and illustrated by me, coming out in April. I'm super excited about. And that's me. You can find me everywhere at Mr. Fish Comics on all the social medias.
Cool. All right. I guess I'll do the quick pitch. So I'm Joe Tolliver from Comics Cast. It's a media company for the last 2 years. I've been highlighting indie comics creators for 2 years and some change. And this year, 2021 or 2022, is going to turn into production now. So we'll be releasing a magazine that'll be some similar content, as well as what our main objective from the very beginning, from starting the company officially last year, was going to be the streaming service for indie creators to be able to get their products on the streaming service, so that people from all over the world can get it for a very small price. So there's a lot of streaming elements out there. People are trying to do it, but we're doing it in a new and special way that should rival some of the other things that people are using. That is $1 million, billion dollar business. So let's just bring that back to the indie community where it belongs, is in our hands. So that's what we're working on now. Each magazine will have a 5-page comic in it that is ongoing, which will be pretty cool. And then it'll have features and how to draw elements, as well as links to people's art classes, things like that they can purchase, but in a discounted way by getting the book. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, nice to meet you both. I'm John Westhoff, the publisher, writer, letterer for Part-Time Comics. I've been on the show before, but if people don't know, we're a relatively new company. I have about 12 years of publishing experience, but started a new company during the best time that you would ever want to start a brand new company, Part-Time Comics. And we released 2 books in 2020, and we're looking to release 5 more in 2022. 2021 we released 2. But
awesome.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Thanks, awesome, all of you, for coming.
Love you put the bat signal out, and you're like, anyone want to get on? I'm like, yeah, sure. I think we should start.
That's the most. That's the most responses I ever got when I asked for guests. People were like, me, and I was like, oh, now I know when to ask.
People missed you in that month you were gone.
Yeah.
What?
Is that why you left for December, so that to create the yearning?
Leave them void, leave them hungry.
They're like, where's that ugly kid? And then I'm like, hey, what's up? You want to be a guest? And then they're like, oh, yeah,
absolutely.
After 120 comments.
That's so funny.
Ugly kid.
Ugly kid. I'm 30 years
I mean,
old.
you could have better. It could be worse. You could be like the kid that shits his pants or something. It wouldn't be great.
He missed the segue to say, speaking of ugly kids, here's Dustin.
Yeah. I've arrived. King of the ugly kids. What's up? I'm here. I live to serve. Whatever.
Yeah. So, Dustin, what do you have going on, and who are you, and what do you do? And
oh my God. So I own Ethereal Comics, which is a new publication company, which is super cool. Enjoy that a lot. I also write 5 different ongoing IPs that are bi-monthly. I put out a book every 6 weeks, and they're all industry level titles. So we're really excited about that. Speaking in the industry, you guys pay attention to certain magazines that you get in your comic book shops. You should see us shortly. Stoked about that. But there's, I put out BGD, I put out Greed, I put out The Listener. Currently, BGD 2 is on Kickstarter and actually blowing Kickstarter away right now. We're really excited about that. And we're also putting out a new book which the preview is on the BGD Kickstarter. It's called If It Hops. It is like a if you enjoy Zootopia, it's like Zootopia for grown folks. That's how I treat If It Hops. It's a lot of fun. Same thing with BGD. If you were a fan of like Theodore Rex, BGD is Theodore Rex for grown folks with a main character that owns a gentleman's club. So, it's good times. But that's about it. You can find me anywhere with my name, just about.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't do TikTok though. I'm everywhere else.
You don't do TikTok?
Man,
No,
I get better engagement on TikTok than anywhere else, and
Man,
it
look,
seems
we did-
ridiculous.
Because
We
it's
did
too
this video.
it's so new.
What was that campaign? So Jim and I did a campaign for Totally Rad one time where over the summer where he was like, I'm gonna do the 1 chip challenge, and I was like, okay. And I stuck my fucking finger in my eye and burnt the hell out of myself. So yeah, I don't.
Dude.
Yeah, there is no TikToking going on.
You were made for TikTok. Come on.
No, it's so bad.
That's TikTok gold, man.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
The worst part about it is I'm literally like, Jim, put on the gloves so you don't touch your face, right? Because I hadn't intended on eating this thing. So I was like, yeah, go ahead. But I was like, if you get something like 75 viewers, at the same time, I'll eat the other half of it. You know what I mean? So he's got the gloves on. I didn't have any gloves on, and it's hot out. It's like July, and I'm like, man, my face is sweating, and just rub that shit all in my eye. Yeah, that sucks so bad. I'm sitting there with like a glass of milk, trying to seep it into my eyes and into my tear ducts and everywhere else. But yeah, it's a good time.
Oh man, that reminds me of a kid eating crawdads, and it's hot. It's so hot it gets you to crying, and then you wipe your eyes, and then it's all over.
Man, Old Bay, been there with Old Bay too, man. Blue crabs and Old Bay, and just been like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat hot shit, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't want to be tortured
it.
when I eat.
I don't like
sure your
super
colon
spicy
appreciates
stuff, but for Chronicles of Horror 2, I said if we hit this certain stretch goal, I'll go live and torture myself, and I did. I did shots of different hot sauces that my girlfriend.
I
had.
remember that.
Oh,
Yeah,
Lord.
and then my throat was all numb for 2 days, and,
I
and we didn't fund that Kickstarter, and I was like, cool.
All for nothing. This
I
man
burnt
suffers
my
for
throat for
comics.
nothing.
Yeah, things not to do when funding, I guess.
The theme of today's show is, how do you
Yeah.
suffer for comics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What's the line that you will not cross?
I have flat been making a fool out of myself on TikTok the last couple of days for my buddy's Kickstarter 5-star that's going right now that I illustrated, because we're down to 4 days left. So, man, I got this whole wrestling persona on. I even went so far as to make a championship belt for the publisher. I did this whole macho fish thing. I made videos for every day to roll out the campaign, and I'm making an absolute fool of myself for this. And dude, I hope you appreciate what a good friend I have that I'm willing to do this for you, because I wouldn't do it for just about anybody. But if it gets a couple of more views and a couple of more people to go out to the Kickstarter, then
That's really
I'm
what
down
it
for it.
matters. Yeah, I mean, if you can get one person to put an email down or actually purchase something.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And I'm acting a fool, and I finally got to take everything off last night, and I was like, all right, I'm done with it. And I was like, I have this sneaking suspicion that I'm going to have to do this for the rest of my life now.
That's right.
I have a feeling I've done one of those things that's just going to keep riding. And
Yeah, now you have to do the wrestling belt every single time with
Every
some sort of a hot
time.
element.
It's going to be, what they expect.
Oh, yeah.
Next campaign, you're going to have to bring him back, Mr. Fish. You know what I mean?
oh, absolutely.
And
Oh,
you're
man.
probably going to end up being put into the book, I imagine.
I got the shades and the whole 9 yards, man.
Cover
Had
now.
the
Now,
bandanas. I'm
Now you're gonna
already thinking, how do I make a cape? How exactly how do I want to spray paint my hat and put feathers on it and whatnot? Yeah,
I want a
this
stretch
is-
goal now with you as the cover. That's it.
Man, there is a tier that you can back it at if you really want to spend some money, where you get all of the swag, all of the stuff, and you get a custom one-of-a-kind cover. So we can make that whatever you want it to be. You get your own one-of-a-kind book printed with your cover. We've done it before, And man, I've done some crazy stuff. Like this one guy was a plumber, and so we've got this giant jack-o'-lantern attacking the city and holding his plumbing truck up with the logo across it.
That's
The
dope.
whole 9 yards.
That's dope. And when you do that, it's cool because you're actually going in and it's not a blank variant. You're going in and making an
Oh
actual
yeah, I put just as much work into it as I do into any of the covers.
I love it. That's dope.
And you get the digital art, you could do what you want with, but then getting the actual printed comic with it on there, and you're on it, or your daughter or your nephew or whatever you wanted to put in there is in there. It's really cool. It's awesome.
These are really cool pages, man. These are nice. Really, really nice.
I put a lot of love into 5-Star. He's one of the characters. Like, I've got to work on a lot of books. In like the last 3 years, I've worked on like just over 30 books. And there's just a couple of characters that I deeply love out of those, and I'm very protective of them. 5-Star is one of them. And like, actually, by the end of this year, I'm shifting to just doing my own books and 5-Star because we're at the same publisher. It just makes sense. But I'm going to end up having to let go of all the other awesome books that I've been working on, and because I got to get my stories out there. And as long as people keep coming at me, want me to do their books, I don't have time. It goes against every fiber of my being to say, no, I do not want your money. I want to say no to your paying job.
That's tough. I mean, a good problem to have, I'm sure.
Absolutely
Could be worse. I pay my bills and feed my kids by drawing grown men in their underwear beating each other up. It's awesome. Like, I'm living my childhood dream. So I can't complain.
I love it, man. Hell yeah.
There's all kinds of awesome reward tiers on here, from getting all the variant covers to getting on Chat and Draw with Mike Watson and getting him to draw a character for you live on the show, coming on our 5-Star Friday show and me drawing a character live for you, getting a 5-character pinup drawn by me, and all kinds of stuff, man. There's cool swag and T-shirts and jackets, and it's really awesome. Freestyle Comics has just really pulled out all the stops, and I really respected what they were doing. I respected the way they were taking care of Tony and the smart choices they were making with the smart people they were bringing in and signing to Freestyle. And then when they came calling, I was like, yeah, you know what? I like these guys. I like what you're doing here. I like the people you're surrounding yourself with. So when they asked me about my book, Green Zone, I was like, yeah, we can do this. Absolutely.
There you go.
That's cool.
Respect that.
Respect. I'm with you. What's going on, Trish?
Pretty sure Trish and Mike have a Kickstarter.
Yeah, they do right now. Yep. What is Bink and Fetch? What's going on right now? And they're doing great. Really glad to see that for them. Super excited. They're great folks. They've been around for all of us, so I'm real grateful, to anybody that helps them out and get their stuff going. Man, John, you just had a campaign going, didn't you, John?
Yeah, I had the Eternal campaign. Now I'm about to launch another one.
Dope.
So yeah, after a rough end to the year, I'm hoping for a better start to 2022. I know a lot of people like to launch around this time in January, so hopefully don't get lost in the shuffle again.
It's a big January.
January was actually like a month that everybody wanted to.
Yeah, it's huge right now. There's like right now in my own circle of folks right now, there's I know that Tom's got an action figure coming out this month. Kara's got a book running this month. Wendy's got a book running this month. How's it going, Tim? There's a lot going on, man.
Everybody gets excited, to start off the year with that. But yeah, I got one that's about to launch as well.
Dope.
So tell us, what's the book that's coming out, man?
So the next one I have coming out is Drumsticks of Doom. It is basically the short pitches. Black Sabbath, not the Beatles, became the most popular band on the planet, and thus the universe was changed forever. It follows our main character, Lana. She just wants to be in a cool indie band. She doesn't want to play heavy metal anymore, but she doesn't really know how to not do that in a world where it's dominated by heavy metal. So we're about to launch that with amazing artist Dan Doherty. We've actually been working on it for almost 2 years now. I did the try to pitch it, try to get somebody to pick it up, and we finally decided, you know what, let's let's do a proof of product, get the first issue out there, and then see if we can get somebody to be interested. But I don't mind self-publishing or anything, but would definitely appreciate a little more support because it is not cheap making these comics.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Not in the least. Not in the least. I think we're at like $4,500 for the last issue we put out, just in production. So
yeah.
Greg, you've read my books, man. You know the production value of my books. I don't. Yeah, we don't shy away from.
I still have to read more. They're in the stack that I have.
Well, that's okay. I'm just grateful to be in the stack. They'll get
I was thinking.
The stack.
In December or something. I was like, what I should do next year is like just read each comic that's in that stack, and that would be a TikTok.
There you go.
That I could do, and I'm like, that sounds like so much work.
Mm-hmm.
Like over 100, I think.
Yeah, but it's a good stack.
I thought I was bad. I have 20, and that's about it. And I always feel I'm not finished reading. You got over 100.
Oh man, yeah. I've easily my stack is split up into like 4 different places, so it's easily probably 100 comics or more. And I'm the same way. I'm constantly getting new ones. I'm constantly backing Kickstarters. Any town I go to for a trip or a show, I go to the local comic shops. If there's any small press indie, I buy it. I buy all the small press books at every con I go to. So I end up with this giant stack of books that I only seem to get through any of them when I'm on a trip or on vacation or I'm sitting in a hotel room, and I'll take a stack with me in my bag and start reading them.
Yeah,
but otherwise, most days I'm working from the time I get up to go to sleep. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of time to say, oh, I want to read a comic book. I'm too busy making them.
Yeah, I've been trying to carve out a hour or so a night, at least, make some stuff and then switch over.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta find time to read. But my stack is 40 trades high, 50 is always so huge.
I didn't even get my stack filled. I just came across Kickstarter today trying to back somebody, getting some information out there for an email, and then I looked. I was like, "Is that a note to me?" So I guess Kickstarter was trying to tell me something. So I dropped down the note. There was about 10 books that wanted more information from me.
Wow,
I don't really pay for. I just never got them because I didn't fill out the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get a lot of those. This is your last chance to fill out your form, and I was like, "Oh yeah,
hate us already."
I get so many of those Kickstarter emails though that it just becomes a wall, and I forget.
Yeah,
I think that's everybody. To be honest with you, I mean, like right now, I try to back. I that circle that you hang in, you always try to back your friends and whatnot.
Sure.
I drop shit about Greg all the time just because I always talk about Greg's turtle stuff because it's fun to me. You know what I mean? It's fun to me. It's interesting. And anything I can do that I find that I come across a terrapin of some sort, I'm like, hey, it's Greg's stuff. You know what I mean? Just because I try to, pass on a little bit of love every now and then when I can. But it's very telling. Like if you go to a Kickstarter backer or a Kickstarter producer or publisher, and then you go up to their stuff and you're like, oh, well, they've got 10 campaigns, but they don't back anybody. I'm like,
oh yeah.
I'm not really a fan of jumping in on that, because right now, if you go to our campaign, we're at 500% a goal right now. You know what I mean? It's like, we wouldn't be that way if people didn't support us and didn't, value the things what we put out and value our friendships even, That's a big part of this industry. We're supporting each other because we all know how difficult it is to try to make it. Like I do this full time, it's a full-time job for me. So I'm literally so thankful for every dime that comes sliding through that little thing. And every time my phone goes off, I'm sending thank you messages out and, what can we do next? Like we were talking the other day, Blade and Hunter, he does all the interiors for BGD and he does the interiors for Hops. And we were sitting there and he was like, well, what are you going to do? He was like, we're going to surpass the first issue of this book. This is my 9th published book that we're working on right now. And he was like, well, what happens if we hit this really high goal? And I was like, well, instead of just putting the sticker out like we planned on, we're going to add 6 pages to the book and make it 24-page full color instead of just, or make it 30 page instead of 24 page. But yeah, that's one of the first pieces of art that was done for Agent Seaver, If It Hops. So we were like, man, we're going to throw the first, concept sketch up there and show people what's up. But now that we own Ethereal Comics and publications, it's very different than when we were putting issues out just by ourselves. So we've got a team of 29 people right now.
Wow.
And
Awesome.
Wow.
yeah, it's phenomenal. I'm very thankful. And majority, I'm gonna say 80% of our team is major league players. So it's a lot of fun to see them get to step out of having to do something that is strictly a Superman or a superhero title or something like that. So it's great fun. To minor league ball players that you guys have seen places like Blade and Hunter is a pen name, but Blade and stuff is super recognizable. As you go down, you can start seeing the artwork and stuff that he's got going. But we love working with him. He's a great dude. And then we got like David Acampo. One big name that's on BGD now is Devin Massey of Cavewoman fame. He's a great dude. And if you're gonna have chicks and dinosaurs, I mean, you gotta go certain places to get certain people. But it's an absolute blast. BGD is literally about a retired mercenary that owns a gentleman's club in a kinder term for what it actually is. And he's just trying to do his thing, man, and he hires a new dancer in book 1, and she brings all kinds of drama. So, and that starts catching up to him in book 2. But I think the colors are great. The story's good. We have a lot of fun with it. The level of talent that we bring in is awesome. That's the very first page of If It Hops, Greg. That's the very first page of the book. So
That'll get attention.
Yeah.
hey, man, so we're well on our way to that third stretch goal. And like
That's
I said,
awesome.
yeah, I'm very thankful. The campaign's only been live for like 4 days now. So I'm super, super grateful for the people that have been involved. And like I said, we try to look out for folks and make sure that, they get the recognition, the artists particular, whatever. Writing's fun, but you're always going to be the drummer of the band. You know what I mean? You're never the lead singer, never
What's wrong
the
with that?
guitar, So I don't mind being the
for
drummer.
25 years. Come
I
on.
am a drummer. Yeah,
Hey,
Hey, man, you make
Absolutely.
sure everybody does their thing, though, right? You make sure everybody stays in line and keeps the show going. So that's
right.
That's the
you don't
goal.
get all the attention, but ain't nothing happening without you. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's that Devin Massey cover, and that came out stupid good. It's beautiful. Gwen's actually got that, and she's coloring it now. But like I said, you'll see stuff that we push boundaries on all our books, from BGD to If It Hops to The Listener to Greed. Steph Wilson's a big member of our team. We love him. JT Malloy, love JT. He's a great guy. We do everything under the sun, man. And then with Karen Nicole, she's got a campaign going on right now. Her and her husband are great folks. Love working with her. She's been on both BGD books so far. But yeah, I mean, it's just phenomenal, the responses that we've gotten. And then I think that then April Reyna, she and I are in Florida next week for VillaCon. So that's going to be super cool. And then the next show after VillaCon that I think we've all got, there's Bladen's If It Hops cover. That's limited to 100. And I think we've only got like 42 of those left. Great cover. Absolutely thrilled with it. But yeah, then we're in Vegas. I think we've got Vegas in June, so that should be a lot of fun. And then back to Orlando in August, I think. But yeah, we're all over the place. And there's the infamous Bitty Titty shirt. So really excited about that. Love that shirt. And then we do foils, and we also do metal covers. So yeah, we have a lot of fun. I mean, like I said, we do a lot. I mean, with as many folks as we have on our team, it's literally like every time we turn around, there's a new project. There's something someone's doing. I put out a book every 6 weeks. So, I mean, Greg has the majority of my. I'm pretty sure Greg has in his stack. They're in the stack.
Yeah, somewhere.
But yeah, we do put out a book every 6 weeks. We try to make sure that everything, me neither, Trish. We try to make sure that everybody gets things in the most optimal fashion that we can put them out. Like right now, Greed 2's campaign was in November, if I'm not mistaken. Everybody had books by December. You know what I mean? So, and then the last books from Greed 2 are going out now, and those were the medals. They went out this morning. So certain things take a little bit longer. You know, your medal covers take a little bit longer. Foils come in about the same time as everybody's, holy cow, it's Kara. So your medals go out a little bit later because it does take us a little bit longer to get medal covers than it does our regular covers.
I haven't seen one of those medal covers yet. How does that work?
So medals, I can shoot you a name later and get you, hooked up so you can, cop them yourself. But they're normally like $7 to $10 per print. You know what I mean?
Nice.
But I don't want to say they're glued because I don't know how they're put on the covers. But they look really cool. You know, they're really pretty. They're really shiny. You know, and because of the rarity of them, I know that Jim and I both do prints of them, and we do them much lower runs than we do regular books. You know, so you normally do like 5 medals is the run limit that I would do.
Wow,
because you're talking $75 in production just for the covers on those. You know what I mean? For 5 books, so 6 books, something like that. So I would definitely think about it. You know, if you want to do it and you're doing a show, like if you're doing a big show, like we're taking like 5 of each to Vegas, you know, so it's like, hey, look, we've got metal covers, for Vegas, But then again, we're going like 10 folks and half of that is team members of ours. So it's literally, hey, look, just slide it down the table and get it signed. You know what I mean? It's just part of the marketing. And it's a cool marketing.
Yeah. How did I do this heavy metal book and not think of doing a metal cover?
Hey man, we had a buddy ask us about I don't know if it was you we were talking to, John, about the completely black variants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, we put out matte black variants that people were like shitting about because they were so cool because it's literally a matte style.
Yeah, I'm totally doing that. Thanks for the tip. I thought I would have to do it like glossy because they'd have to.
No, dude. They're so.
I was like,
cool
this is going to be real cool. Yeah,
they are, and they look beautiful with. I'll say this: colored pencil is beautiful on those things. Like it's ridiculously cool. But yeah, and that's me, and that's what I'm doing. And that's cool. And thank you so much. And Kara's here, and Kara has a book with me too. And yeah, there we are.
Yeah. What's up, Kara?
Hey, sorry I'm late. I thought this was tomorrow, actually.
Unforgettable.
So yeah, I do have a book out. It is a horror anthology with 4 stories and plenty of covers. And we did something really interesting this time. So we've got our main book. Main cover is going to be what we're shooting for is, to have additional content in the main book. And then there'll be variant covers. But then we also have each story available as its own floppy with variant covers on that. So not every cover has all the stories, only the main cover books. And there's cosplay options as well as regular, the main cover, and then there's variant options. We also have an inks only option as well with a Shikari cover. And one of the things we're doing, because we have so many things to choose from, is we're doing a build your own set. So what you're paying for is your base price shipping. You're paying for the box, the bubble wrap, the main shipping, and then you can just literally add anything you want.
That's cool.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
So that was a really good way. It's like, oh, but I only want this one variant cover. Okay, build your own.
That's a really neat idea.
So you can see some of the interiors that we've got for our 4 stories. That one is regarding Ruth, about a girl in a mental institution in the early 1900s. And she is in a wheelchair. And that's why she's in an institution. Not because she's mental, but because she has no legs. And back then they couldn't really take care of a young girl like that. So they put you in an institution. This is Selva de Terror in the 2080s in the Colombian jungle. So that's a really exciting story about girl Natalia who's running for her life. And then we've got Michelle, who is in the 1980s in Australia. And hers is more of a murder mystery. And then we've got Dwelling of the Dead, which is Dee Dee in about 10 years in the future in Colorado in a place called Bishop's Castle, which is a real actual castle if you look it up.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's the main cover. And these are the Shikari variants, which everyone loves Shikari.
Oh man, he's super talented.
He's amazing. And then a couple of cosplay variants.
I remember thinking his cover looked so much like you that it looked more real than you did standing next to it.
It does. I looked at him like, man, I look like such a loser over here next to Shikari.
Like, Shikari Kara is like alive, you know, and it was really cool.
Well, he does incredible work.
For sure.
So these are the main tier variants for the Ruth cover. We've got a Trevor Grace, because it's an institution, with our hostess. We had the hostess fill in for Ruth in many of these covers. Poor Ruth is just such a put upon character. So many bad things happen to her that I couldn't have her like sexualized on the cover.
Poor Ruth.
So we had the hostess fill in for some of those. And then these are our Natalia covers. This is Jay Ferguson, who is incredible. And then we've got Hedwig Zaldivar, and that kind of is like this is what the story's about. So you've got zombies, you've got a rave, you've got this this raver chick. And we've got our hostess with Natalia in the jungle. Now it's an Ale Borgabello. His covers get a lot of chatter. And then, of course, the cosplay variants as well. And then now we're moving on to Michelle. And this piece was done by Marissa Pope. And I want to say Cece De La Cruz. It's the Naughty Nice. And you can tell the 80s style and the Australia pickups there. And then next we've got Courtney Rose. Definitely have that 80s style. And then Alfred Trujillo. He did a retro style Naughty Nice for Michelle as well. Michelle is a murder mystery. So it's very exciting. She's a college student who's running for her life while also trying to find out who killed her mother. So her mom was involved in some shady stuff, corporate stuff. And now we've got Dee Dee in the Dwelling of the Dead, and that is a ghost story. Dee Dee is a death doula. If you know what a doula is, it's like a midwife. But instead of being there to give birth, they're there to help take you to the afterlife. So as you're dying, they help you to prepare emotionally for that. It really is a real job. And this story was the first story that I thought of for this series, based on a friend of mine who is a professional psychic. And she said her death doula class was very interesting, but she would never want to do it as a job, even though she can. We've got Borav, I cannot say his name, a new artist we brought in for that. You can tell, obviously, the ghost story vibes from that. And then we've got CB Zane with Dee Dee and the hostess. I love that. That is such a sexy piece. And then the cosplay covers for that. We also have some bundle packs. We've got our VIPs. We've got our Build Your Own. We've got a cosplay pack where you can get all the cosplay stuff, including the 11x17 art pieces. The VIP comes with all of the main covers that you see there. And then we've got our main, like our generic, this is one of each book, one of each story. So you don't get the anthology in there, but you get all the stories for the anthology with the cover that I felt represents the character and the story the most. We also have a Red Hot Sexy Pack, which is just all the topless stuff, no cosplay, just all the topless art books. This is what we call an expansion goal. And I don't like to use the word stretch goal because stretch goals are stuff you get for free. This is an expansion goal. Once we hit 35,000, this opened up as a cover, and it is a special price at $25 for a holofoil cover of the Michelle Blackbird Down Under story. And these are available add-on book covers. You can tell we've got the Alfred Trujillo, the Headwind, Mr. Gunn. We've got the heavy metal homage. And then we also have some prints. So we've got some cosplay prints. Cosplay collectors love cosplay prints, so I wanted to give some of those, as well as a t-shirt add-on. And you can get your own evil eye to protect you while going into the horror realm. And then now we're getting into the stretch goals, which we've got quite a few hit. All of these are hit. We've got a patch, stickers, mini prints. We've even hit the enamel pin, as well as some character cards. Those are they're like collector's cards that are going to talk about the character. Some stickers. And one of the stretch goals we hit is you get a teeny tiny little evil eye charm. For those of you that were on the cosplay visions, the 52 card pinup campaign, you got a little key. So I'm starting this thing where I'm putting charms in some of the campaigns, so you can have your own collection of charms based on our campaigns. And some of these seem a little vague, but they will be more than what you see there for the stretch goals. We're always adding new stuff, so we're looking at some more expansion goals as well coming up. And this is a video that has our song Unstable Frequencies and shows all of the art from the campaign. We've also hit the stretch goal for a CD. So you're going to get a CD, which is the soundtrack to our book that has original music from me and Alfred Trujillo.
Wow.
Any questions? I feel like I'm just like blah, 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 blah.
Are any of the stories continuing, or are these all one and done stories?
Well, it depends. They can continue. I will tell you that the next Unstable Frequencies is not a continuation of these 4 stories. Some might come back for a continuation in the next book. Some might have to wait a couple of books. But it's very Tales from the Crypt.
Nice.
Doesn't she look just like the Crypt Keeper? So yeah, they're very Tales from the Crypt. So each story can stand alone. It does not have to continue, but they can. And if everybody comes back and says, "Oh, I hate this story," then why would we continue a story that everybody hates? Unless, well, this is me, and I might just want to be a dick and do it anyway.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you have a lot of stuff on your campaign.
We do.
Yeah,
we
you
do.
I've been making
It
some
was like
notes
the Fire
about
Bitch
some
2
of it.
campaign
Yeah,
was like
I'm
this
saying.
as well. I think the campaign I had the least on was probably my calendar.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and going through it, because I've seen it bouncing around the internet and seeing the different images. To be honest with you, I didn't even tie together that they were all from the same thing. Because you have so much, I remember seeing the cosplay cover of the ghost grabbing your arm, and I just thought, that was just a fun pinup. I didn't realize, in a tweet or whatever, you can't tell that it's attached to a story. So it's cool to hear that how you're tying it all together. That it's not just for the sexy cover. It's also part of the story and the character.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
she's actually the character for the story. The only one of these characters I did not design is Michelle. And Alfred designed her. But all of the other ones I had created the designs for. Like the hostess, we worked on together and came up with, and we brainstormed and came up with some, the idea for her. Dee Dee was a design based on one of our music videos. and it was what I was wearing in the music video. And Alfred's like, I really like this. Let's use this for her. I'm like, okay. And then Natalia was something that I put together for a photo shoot. So I did it because it was supposed to be a very cool, like avant-garde photo shoot. And Alfred's like, man, that's a really great character design. And I'm like, I wish you had told me that before I combed out the wig. To do the wig designs was, you know, and then I combed it all out. I didn't think I was going to use it again. He's like, no, I got to redo that wig.
You can see by my hairstyle, I have no idea what you're talking about with the wig, but yeah.
So yeah, no, it's very exciting, and we have more stories. It was the hardest part was choosing which ones are going to go into the book because we have so many options. We have stuff that we haven't written up yet. Natalia's story is all drawn and currently, and I want to say it's half inked and at the colorist as well. Michelle's story is mostly done. We're almost there with the colors, and that was Ariel Medell. And Alfred Lee did our Natalia story. Man, I knew it. We had used him for Fire Bitch issue 2 for a few fill-in pages. And so I was like, man, I had seen his work in other things, and it was like, okay, it's nice, but when he gave us the stuff that we got from him for our Fire Bitch 2, I was like, this is amazing. It was way more than I expected from his previous body of work, and I think that came down to the content from the writer. But his stuff was just amazing. I was like, I want him, and I was like, well, I want this guy, and then Alfred's guy couldn't do it. I'm like, okay, we get my guy now because I wanted Alfred, and he just busted those out so fast, and he made like a few minor changes that were just incredible. I was like, dude, this is why I wanted you. You really just like hit it. There was one page where he had changed up the panels. I was like, no, it works. Yeah, I see what you're doing here, and it works. It was amazing. And then for regarding Ruth, we've got JT Malloy.
Yeah.
And if you know his work, he's got a grit factor about him. And this isn't an institution, it's in an insane asylum. So I'm like, I want that grit. I want that grit that I know JT is going to put in there. And he did. So you can see a little bit of the art. We got C.B. Zane on Dwelling of the Dead. And he knows how to draw beautiful women. He knows how to put a scene together and how to tell a story. And when you're dealing with as many components as we are in these stories, we really need our artists to be able to show all the innuendos and stuff behind the scenes. It's more than just this talking head of this person telling me what's happening. This person is saying something. I want to see what's happening in the backgrounds. And so that was part of the reason we chose who we did. Originally, Alfred was like, so who are we going to have draw this? And I'm like, no, we're going to have different artists for every story. And he's like, what? What about like the cohesiveness of the project? I'm like, exactly. We're going to use the same letterer and the same inker, but I want different colors. I want each story to stand alone on its own. It also definitely keeps us out of a trap of, what if there's a problem? What if our artist doesn't want to come back for another book? So every story being a different artist really allows the artist to come through. Do you know what I mean? It's more than just the stories we wrote. It's about the entire project. And I'm loving the direction this is going in. And
that works for an anthology story. You know, I think that's a great idea. Then you've got four people working, and like I had to switch an artist in between the last series we did, and I think it works, but that's a little harder, right? You can tell there's a transition. So I actually had to kind of put a buffer page in between, you know, to kind of soften that a little. But yeah, for an anthology, especially like you said, like a Tales from the Crypt one-off stories, that's a great one.
Yeah, they could be drastically different, and that's fine because that goes into the storytelling and the feel for it. You know, like being in an insane asylum could have a much different vibe to it and be absolutely fine if it doesn't look the same as the next story.
Well, it looks like the book has the vibe, right? It's not like one is a, you know, anime style and one is a, you know, super hyper, you know, so there is a style to it that it seems like, at least to me.
Well, and I think you can, though. I think you can. Like, if we had a horror story that was, you know, in Japan, then we might want to go with an animated style.
That would be clever, yeah.
So that's why I wanted different different artists because I wanted what they have to like shine through. But like I said, we have the same inker, so we've got some cohesiveness there, and we've got the same letterer that will go through the entire book. And then we do have those pages in between. So like Alfred is drawing those pages. So in between every story, we'll have our hostess telling you, kind of introducing you to the new story while exiting you from the previous story.
Yeah, our horror anthology that failed in October, but then I relaunched it in November. We have different artists, but we have the same colorist because I use the same colors for everything that I do. And then the letterer did every story but one. And then I just had like Hector, one of the artists, letter the one story that Jerome didn't want to letter. But
letters I find are the one thing that people cheap out on, and I don't understand. Okay, so I'm going to use this analogy here. So I was working on a movie, and there was a scene where the guy I was with was putting Alka-Seltzer into a cup. And, I'm kind of a Budinsky, and I'm like, wait, no, he's a professional guy. You're not going to give him some shitty plastic cup. Let's go find him a nice glass, because he would use like more of a whiskey glass, right? And then I was like, why don't you get some footage of up close of him putting this Alka-Seltzer, because it goes into his character, putting this Alka-Seltzer in there. And then even at the end, you could even use it fizzing still, like after your movie ends, after your credits, you go back to that cup and you show that fizzing, right? So like these are things you can do. So better to have the footage and not need it than not have it and use it. And then the guy's like, one of the guys working on the scene's like, well, we don't want to waste all the Alka-Seltzer. I'm like, bitch, this is the cheapest thing you have in this movie.
Yeah.
What are you doing? This is the cheapest damn thing you have. And you'd rather waste time editing expensive shit over Alka-Seltzer? And he's like, yeah, this is the cheapest thing we have. And that's the thing, your letterer, of all of your creators, your letterer is your cheapest person. And yet so many people don't use it. You know what? Give up one of your variant covers and use that money to hire a professional letterer. I had a friend, and he was like, he was looking at these books online on Kickstarter, and he's like, I almost bought this book, but they put the word balloons right over her boobs. And it's not even like they did it to hide the boobs in a cute, strategic way. There's all this space that they could have used, and they stuck it right in front of her chest. And it was just weird, and it didn't make sense.
I got a book over here where they covered the character's face.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm all for all different styles, but yeah, I cheap out because I letter my own stuff, but I try to do halfway decent job. But yeah, it's worth the extra money to pay someone.
It is. We've lettered our own stuff for certain books. Like we have these little books that we do here and there from time to time, and we'll just letter them ourselves. It's not a big deal. But if you're going to letter yourself, learn how to letter. There is a way. There are templates. There are not that many comic book lettering resources. So the few that are out there are very easy to find. You can even download PSD templates and just be like, cut this word balloon out, paste it right there. It's so easy. But even the sizing of your letters, you want your letters to fit your balloon properly. You want to make sure that it's the same size every single page. You don't want, 10 points, 12 points, 4 points. Maybe if you're doing a whispering thing, you might want to go down to 4 points to show that exaggeration. But it's more than just lettering and word balloons. It's sound effects. You want your sound effects to have proper blending options and have all of these different things that go to it. If you're dealing with lightning, maybe you want your sound effect to go through the lightning bolt. That sort of thing. If you have someone being electrocuted, you might want your sound effect to show that electricity, So those types of things that you have available that a lot of people just don't understand. Lettering is an art form.
And I'll tell you, I was taught by friends when I first started out. I wasn't as good, on my own, doing my own stuff. But, over the last 10 years or whatever, I've gotten better. But there's a great book that just came out, The Essential Guide to Comic Book Lettering by Nate Pikios, who letters all the Dark Horse, or most of the Dark Horse books. Blambot is his company. He does a ton of free fonts. So if you're worried about like downloading fonts, there's a ton of amazing free ones. Comic Craft does sales every year. There's free versions of Photoshop out there, Adobe Illustrator. I still letter in Photoshop. There is tutorials all over the internet. You can teach yourself, and it is a great skill to have. You might need to make changes at the last minute to books and stuff, so you need to have some.
It is a skill set you can build, though. Like, I mean, not everybody can pick up a pencil and draw as well as I can, but you can learn to letter. You can learn that craft, but you've got to invest the time in it. You've got to invest the time learning it and mastering
that much time. I think it's just the lack of respect for lettering. I think people think it's this easy thing.
Yeah.
You know, take an hour or two and learn. And will you please send me the name of that book?
Sure.
Thank you.
Right now.
I'm super into that. So you can find, look up what sound effects are. Don't have the same things over and over and over again.
It's a pitfall.
You're laughing. You're laughing because you know.
Oh, the same sound effect over and over, the same font over and over again, the same colors on it over and over again. Yeah.
Well, but see, a lot of things is, like when we first started putting books out in 2020, it was literally when we didn't have our first book, the first issue of The Listener that came out, we lettered. We had no idea the difference it would make. Like when we went to issue 2, because we had no idea what we were, we'd been selling comics professionally. We had a comic shop, but we didn't know how to letter a book, So when it came to issue 2, it was like, oh my gosh, we need a letterer. We need like a real letterer. So when we picked up, ESK to letter for us, it was like he's lettered all of our books since then, and we've put out 9 books this past year, and it's been such a phenomenal experience. But there's no how-to with fucking comic books. You know what I mean? A lot of people are like, they come into this industry and they're like, oh, I'm gonna make a bunch of money. But the percentage of people that don't is so much higher than the percentage that do because of pitfalls like that, using the same sound effect, not knowing how to letter, not knowing where to put word bubbles. You know what I mean? There are certain things that make a comic book. You have the best story in the world, but if it looks like shit, people don't want to buy it.
If it's hard to read from balloon to balloon, they will stop reading and they will leave. Absolutely.
It takes some time to learn that, but yeah, when we read, we take it for granted, right? But it really is a design job.
And when it's done well, you get to the end of the book and don't realize you ever read a single word. You just remember the story happening and remember the arguments and the passion and the sound of their voice. You don't remember the letters if you do it really well, and
that's an amazing way to look at it. Like when we started, like it's cool because it leads into certain things when you start putting comic books together. Like when we put out BGD 1, I had never done this before. I can't remember who told me. Somebody working in the industry for years was like, Dustin, have you ever tried writing a book, the dialogue after the pages were done? And I was like, no, I've never tried that. That sounds batshit crazy, right? So I wait for BGD, which is my best-selling book. I literally was like, I'm not going to put any dialogue down on the page or even at all until I can see my characters on the page. So when I started doing it like that, it's going to sound strange, but I could hear my characters. Like I could.
Now wait a minute. Do you do your own art?
No, absolutely not. Bladen does my art. You know what I mean? We have a huge team, Kara. So it's literally like I've got Eric for The Listener. I've got Manny for Greed. I've got Bladen for BGD and Bladen for If It Hops as well. So no, I literally wait for these guys. What I do is I go in and I write what I want to see. You know what I mean? I put down there's a confrontation in the bar and so is arguing so-and-so. But there's no dialogue down for the artist. It's just the concept. This is the kind of facial expressions we want to see.
Okay, but you have a team because the thing is I would never suggest that to a new creator. Because if you don't know how to do it with putting the words first, your artist might not know to leave you room for dialogue or how much room for dialogue you need. So if you have a team that you have experience with each other, like Alfred and I could do that because if he's drawing it and, it's not a problem. But if you are a new creator and a new writer, you might have an idea, but if you don't know how to set up a page and you don't know how to write up a panel description, you're going to be asked out. And you might need that dialogue to help your artist. along the path to understanding you. So with what you're doing, that's definitely a more experienced person situation. I think it's awesome, but I would never recommend it to a beginner.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely pulled it off when I started. Like there'd have been it would have been insane. You know what I mean? But as you start growing, you start learning the tools of the trade and these little nuances to better yourselves and to better your craft. You know?
Yeah, I'll usually put, rough dialogue. And then again, if you are interested in learning as well, I can, like you said, Dustin, when I see the page, I get a different feel for the character. Then I can change it live right before it goes to print. I can say, you know what, this feels like a better, thing that he would say here, or they would, how they would interact, or adjust. You know what, I put too many words in here. I can take it out, so then I'm responsible for it. I don't have to go back to someone else and say, can you please re-letter this? So it's a great skill to learn, and it does take time, but
you guys are talking about is a lot of pitfalls and things like that are happening, and things that you guys learned is like as experienced teams, running teams, getting books out. And the idea that, and I would push back a little bit on what I think Dustin said, was that, don't just run into I know a lot of people say, just finish it, just do your first book, you're going to make all your mistakes. But the community is so large now with the internet the way it is, you can ask myself, anybody, anyone on this group, if you're a new creator, you can, every step of the way, you can be asking questions. There's plenty of people that are in this community that will help you. So
Dustin mentioned his letter. SK Steven, he's got great videos.
Steven is amazing. But like you mentioned though, Joe, now it's available. But when you walk in, I bullshit you not. I run with a lot of really cool people. I really do, and I'm very grateful to them. But when I got into this, I didn't run with a lot of really cool people. We talk about having these things available to people, but when you first walk out onto this pier, you're all by yourself. I mean, it's not literally we don't know about podcasts. I didn't know shit about who I could reach out to or who would help me for anything. It was we got to take our friends in the industry that we would have known or may have known or do know, that could possibly go lead us in just a direction. But no one has time. And right now, I'll say this as a writer. When I first started, people would blow not first started, near the middle of my first year, people would blow me up. And, hey, Dustin, can you read my book? Hey, Dustin, can you get me concepts? Hey, Dustin, how does this read to you? And the first 150 times I did it. I was like, yeah, this is cool. Let's talk about this. Or you might want to change this. Or this doesn't read right. Maybe write it this way. But as I got into it further and further and realized it's very time consuming. You know what I mean? You're literally trying to help people the best you can, but there has to be that level of sink or swim on your own merit as well. You know what I mean? You have to be able to go in and be like, the best analogy that I could ever give anyone in this industry is it's like an ocean of talent. It really is an ocean of talent. When you walk in there and you're this little teeny fish that's about to put their first book out, whether it's cosplay, comic books, writing, art, doesn't matter. It's all talent. So you walk out in this huge world and you're alone. It's like you're just being born into this and you're small. You're tiny compared to all these monsters in this sea of talent. So you've got to figure out how to swim. You've got to figure out how to be big. You've got to evolve to be not be eaten, because the industry will eat you. And I don't mean literally, I mean figuratively, because it's not just a game with money. It's not just a game with talent. It's about how you feel as well, because it can be a depressing world as an artist, to walk in and be like, oh my God, am I good enough? Because I had that. And I told Greg that. I know Kara's heard me say it. I was scared to death when I first started. I was scared to death. Am I going to make enough money to pay for my family to eat? Am I going to make enough money for my home? Am I going to be able to do this, that, and whatever? And I think the best thing that we can give people is just a push. It's positive. Go out there, do the best you can. People will help you along the way, but it's not going to be given to you. You know what I mean? It's really not, because you can be just as talented as the next guy, but if the next guy has more hunger than you, that's who's going to step up the ranks in this industry. We look at Kickstarter, and I use the numbers to show people. A lot of people come in and they're like, well, I'm going to kickstart. And I love Greg, so I'll use Greg for an example. Even people that are great in this industry don't succeed. They don't succeed because it's a million different factors. You know what I mean? So you have to have a way that makes you stand out. Something has got to make you look different, taste different, smell different, sound different than everybody else, you know? And that's the best thing I can give you. Find your niche. Find what makes you so different and so special from everybody else, and that's how you'll succeed.
But I want to expand on that, though, because there are people that'll go out, hey, I'm looking for a writer and I need an artist and I need all these people because I have a great idea. It's $1 million idea.
Right.
Okay, then put $1 million into it so that you can put it out. They don't want to put their own time or money into it. Like, to hire all these people are very, very expensive.
Part of the toy rights. Yeah. No, thank you.
And I think that you need to, advertise what you have. You can have a great idea, but if it's just sitting in your head, it's not doing you any good. And it's not going to just make $1 million because you think it's that good. It could be $1 million idea, but if you don't get it out there, it is a $0 idea.
If you're not a good enough writer, or you don't hire an editor,
but any artist that's going to work for you for free is, one, not going to put the time or care into your project that you need. And two, is always going to work on what they can do to feed themselves first. So if you can't pay your artist, you got nothing. If you can't get advertising, you have nothing. If you can't write your story, you have nothing. So if you can't hire someone, learn. Art is a little hard. Maybe you put out a short story in prose. Maybe you learn how to write a script. You've got YouTube. You've got so many options. Maybe you hit up everybody you know. Start talking about your story. Start creating different things. Hire 2 or 3 pages. Pay for a little bit of art so you can get started.
Well, and that goes back to the problem with people. They're like, the issue with our community is when people are trying to get like either free work or like, well, I got this cool idea. Why don't you do some free character designs for me? Yeah. Like, there's a big difference between somebody who is learning and trying to figure out what their niche is. But like the idea that just because you have a good idea and you wrote a script, now all of a sudden you're the producer. I think that's a concern that I've always had, where people are like, oh, I wrote a script and I'm going to get artists and all these other things, but you're not paying anybody. Or you're just putting it out there and saying, well, I could pay you $5 per page. It's like, come on, you got to be realistic.
You don't get $5 page work.
And, yeah, you're not a publisher, you're not a producer. Yeah. If you have a good idea, like, you're the script writer. So that's what your job is. You're not the producer. If you're going to put it on Kickstarter and everyone's going to pay for it for you, like, you're not the publisher, you're the writer at that point. So I think that's the biggest concern. But yeah, that whole thing where like somebody just posts something and they want free labor is, I think it's pretty much dead. Like,
you have a passion project, you want to see it done, but all of us have a passion project we'd like to see done. Like, I've got my own passion projects that I want to see done, and if I'm going to work for free today, it's going to be on my project. It's going to pay me down the road. I'm not going to work on your project for free. I wish you luck. I hope it succeeds. But, I'm going to work on my own stuff, and everybody else is too.
And that goes back into the idea of cheaping out. I didn't see what Trish had to say because I'm on my phone and it's small. So I couldn't see what she said, but it did seem like she had a question.
It was just as a first-time creator, paying for everything up front is expensive. If you hire the right people, don't hire a dollar amount artist. You get what you pay for.
That's true. I absolutely agree with that, Trish. But with that, I hear a lot of people say, we're going to edit ourselves. Please don't. Please don't edit yourself. You will never see the mistakes. You will see what you think you wrote and not what you actually wrote.
Absolutely.
Your partner will not be able to see those because they will see what you wrote and not what is actually there. And your best friend is not going to tell you what's up. Let me tell you, I have a girlfriend and she will come to me and she'll say like, okay, I've got this. And if I throw my advice in there, it breaks her heart. Like, I love you, girl, but I've been doing this for a while. This is my gig. This is my job. So I want to help you to do better. So I'm going to tell you where you made mistakes and how to make it better. But then I'm the asshole because your friends just want to.
Don't ask your friends. Don't ask your family. Ask somebody that will hurt your feelings.
Yes.
And ask an asshole to read it because, like, I want somebody that's going to hurt my feelings and say, dude, this page doesn't make any sense. Like the thing I love about Chuck that edited my Green Zone book for me is like, he was like, dude, this page is okay, but we don't know where this character came from. So when I turn that camera 360 degrees and redrew the bottom half of the page, it suddenly makes so much more sense. And I appreciate him telling me that. You know, I've got a friend that looks over the lettering for me, and, you know, every once in a while he'd be like, you know, if we move that just a hair, it don't hurt my feelings. I want to know. You know, I had a writer I really respect look over it, and he was like, okay, this doesn't make sense to me. It made sense to me. It made sense to my editor. It made sense to my friends. But if he doesn't get it, there's going to be 100 other people that don't get it, and I won't be there to explain it to him. So I rewrote that panel so that it makes sense now. And, you know, you got to have people that will hurt your feelings. Your mama's going to be, you made a book. I'm so proud. Nobody I know has made a book. It doesn't. She's not going to tell you that it sucks. You need somebody that's going to give you the hard truth and tell you that this doesn't make sense. You might know what this character's intentions are when you wrote it. I don't. I'm the reader. I have no idea. You got to have somebody that's going to be honest.
Well, and remember, comics are a whole different ballgame. So if you bring in someone who is a writer, what do they write? Do they write prose? Do they write novels? Because they are not necessarily going to know how to write a comic. And when you are writing for an artist to draw, you have to write it like the person you're talking to is a moron. You have to give them every ounce. If you have a vision in your mind of what you want the play park to look like in page 7, panel 3, you go online and you find images of play parks that are indicative of what you have. And don't just put that image up there. You put that image up there and you be like, okay, I hate the swing set. I love the slide. I want this. Like, be very, very detailed. Put in colors. Put in character designs. You're like, oh, this is what the character looks like. What color are their eyes? If it's a black dot, it's not telling me. Write down there. What color are their eyes? What color are their nose? Are they taller than the other characters? If you have an idea that the girl is actually taller than the guy, you got to let them know, because they don't know and you don't think to tell them.
Oh yeah, I was super guilty, soupy. I was soupy fucking guilty for that
yeah.
when I started. I like, still to this day, I've been very grateful. Once you find a good team, like, stick with your good team, because we have, like I said, we've got like 27 in different folks that we work with, including Kara and Alfred, and they're great folks, you know. So we have a large group of people that we work with. Each of those people, though, you have to learn each of those people. What is okay? What do they expect from you? You know, what is your, to get, like she mentioned, what do you need? What do they need from you to make what you need? You know, like, I have been super grateful. Whereas in, we use the listener for an example. When I started the listener with Eric had never worked in a comic book, didn't know anything about comic books, but I loved his painted style. So what I do for every issue of the listener is we literally sit for 8 to 9 hours at a time and go panel by panel together to get the roughs out, you know, every single time. And it's so grateful to be able to have that experience, because I learn every time I do it as well, you know. So then when it comes to, you know, like Greed and BGD, though, these are comic book artists, you know, guys that have been in this industry for years and years. So it's literally like, okay, well, you know, let's you guys send me the thumbnails. You know, here's the story. Read the story. Tell me what you think, and then send me the thumbnails back. Because I'm always that guy that believes that they get into it. If you have the right team, they get into it just as deep as you do. Like Mr. Fish mentioned earlier, you know, he takes a lot of pride in his work. So when you guys get in there and you're like, I see it like this, this is how it's portrayed, you still have to do great description when you write it down for these folks. You know, this is the kind of color I would like. You know, generally speaking, I let our artists play with clothes. I let them put whatever clothes they want on our character. If you don't tell them that, though, they're going to ask you, what do you want to see this character portrayed as? How do you want to see them standing? Are they slouching? Are they standing tall? Or da-da-da-da? I believe as writers and creators in different fashions, and like Joe mentioned, real productions, you have to give people direction. You know, it's not, you're not being disrespectful, you're not taking away from them, but they need to know what you want them to know. It's a very fine line between taking away an artist's ability to do their own art and you stepping on their toes.
Yeah,
it is
that's
so
really
fine. You know,
Yeah.
Some people need a firmer hand guiding them. Some people need
sure.
more freedom on the leash. You know, like I tend to get better final quality work if I've got a little bit more freedom, but I know other people that need all the direction they can get.
Right.
And like how you work with each other is important. And you got to figure that out with each team, like you were saying, because like I try and explain to everybody when I'm working with a new creative team, like I'm on the autism spectrum with my Tourette syndrome and stuff. Like I can be very direct and I can come off as I'm being mean, and I don't mean it that way. So I will explain to people, like I will ask very direct questions without all the niceties added to it that most people do sometimes. And I will give you the most awesome images I can. If you don't like it and you want changes, I need very clear descriptions of what you want changed. Telling me make it look more awesome doesn't do anything for me, because I gave you the most awesome image I can think of.
Right.
You know, just make her look sexier doesn't tell me what you want. You want bigger boobs, smaller boobs.
What are we saying here?
You know, maybe you like really chunky women and you're thinking sexier is add 200 pounds to her. I can do that. Just tell me. You know, give me what you want and I'll give it to you. But I need clear instructions.
And that's what goes back to Dustin said about building relationships, what Kara mentioned as well. You can form relationships and make comics with people and have a quid pro quo or whatever you want to call it, not have to pay as much. So that's part of it. But yeah, I can, for my buddy Bob Gar, who I've been working with for 10, 12 years, you know, we did Depowered. I can do a 4-word panel description and he'll just nail it because we've worked together on hundreds of pages of comics. So you can't get to that point where you do that. But yes, if you're working with somebody and you're really trying to put out your best professional work, you know, you gotta be detailed, or work with somebody that's going to have that conversation when they don't understand and not just move forward.
And it's finding people that are on that same creative track as you. I talk about that a lot because like when our imaginations are running in the same direction and we like the same things, like you have an idea, I can build off of that. We know which direction we're running in. When our imaginations are going in opposite directions, like I'm trying to make it what I think is cool, but if that's not your image of cool, it's always going to be a fight. So like that's what bugs me when people try and cheap out on artists and they're like, okay, I found this guy in the Philippines that'll work for $20 a page. Now I want you to draw like fish.
Right.
He's not going to be able to do that because he's not me. Our brains don't work the same. We're not the same creative guys. Like find somebody that does what you like. Don't try and take a guy that does fantasy work all day long and say, I want you to do highbrow science fiction.
Right.
You know, like this guy's never drawn a straight edge in his life. It's all crooked trees and lawns and stuff.
And busted out old buildings with wood lines.
Exactly.
Now, once you get those pages in, so your artist, you're gonna send your script, and your artist is not going to just, here's all 22 pages of your book. No, they're gonna send you a rough draft, and that's like your basic like underdrawing. Like this is where all the people are. This is their posing. This is what I'm thinking, and they're gonna send that back to you. And do not glance at it and say, okay. No, you look at it and go over your page.
Look at it.
Make sure that panel 1, panel 2, is this what I'm looking for? Panel 3, panel 4, is it turning the right way?
Is it the kind of pacing? Does it make sense? I know who this character is from panel to panel because we didn't switch the camera around too far.
Going back to dialogue.
Really look at it.
Also, this is what you're going to be looking for to make sure your word bubbles go to the right places and all that. And
exactly.
Your eye line, nobody breaks the 180 rule, all that sort of stuff is.
And you want to make sure that final panel of the page leads to the next page. Double spreads. So I had a script recently sent to me, and I love this person, love her dearly. I want her to succeed. But she had page 1 and 2 as a double spread. Nope. Your double spreads are going to be even to odd. Unless you're going to rearrange your book.
Even to odd, unless you got an ad in there, don't confuse yourself.
Yeah, you're going to open your book, and you've got your inside cover, which is usually going to be this is the person that did this, that, and the other. And then page 1.
Honestly, I have a book that did that. Yeah, I have a book that has double page spreads, and they did it first to second page. And then everything after that, every double page spread is on a page turn. It's ridiculous.
So I am
it's weird.
Very fond of the 90s splash pages. Huge fan. But they, like you mentioned earlier, they have to be done so very correctly. Like a tip for anybody that's never done them before. Kara hit the nail on the head. It's always got to be even odd. You know what I mean? It's always got to be on the same. You got to look at it at the same time. Don't do some weird shit where it's on one and then you flip around and it's on the other side. That's bananas. But when you put them together, one fun thing to two huge keys. One being fun. Make sure you're not putting them on somebody's fucking face. First off, don't put it on anything integral. You don't want people to look at the scene. That's not where you want your eye to be drawn to.
Yeah.
So the fun thing that we've learned going through this and working, like I said, with incredible talent is to add space. Add space in the crease in the middle. Even if it's a white line. They're not opening that book all the way just to see where your scheme is at. So that white line gives you that little bit of room to have both your images still touch. You know what I'm saying? It's just a little tip for the trade. You know what I mean? It's just, and it works.
You guys have gone over the whole process of making comics. Everyone has gotten all this free advice. Joe's going to put it into his thing.
And it saves you because you have the hump, right? You have the hump that you're looking at. And
I think you should make a video. I think you should make a video explaining that and showing how that works, exactly how much space, because we do double spreads, but I typically leave them for like montages or where I want to show the entire world from like up above, so that when you open it up, you can see it. But I'm very curious. I would love to see.
Yeah.
So
Our
new show,
do a process show with you. You can talk all about.
Show. Yeah, for sure. Our new show, and I actually got that from ES. Because the guy's he's full of knowledge, you know what I mean? But so we used to do, normally until the holidays and people were getting sick and stuff, we did The Other Side. And Jim Noble and I started that months ago. Wednesday nights we do The Other Side. And, but I also do a show called ComX on Friday nights in the US with Leigh Chalker. That starts again next week. Our first guest will be April Reyna, of course, because she's on our team, great person. And then we'll also have ESK on that show, who's also on our team. But I'll ask him live, and I'll get him to show you guys what we're talking about, and we'll go through a portion of it on that show, not this Friday, but the following Friday, so you guys can see it. Because I didn't believe it. I thought it was absolute bullshit. I was like, there's no way you're going to tell me that works. And he was like, and it's not because of the way the pages sit. It's the way that we look at it. It's the way that we view things. Because you're not taking away from your imagery. You're just adding in where the crease actually is. So you're lifting your images so they're touching each other. So
right, but I think we need to see specifics as far as exactly how much we put on that border. What that variable is.
He's got the actual
inch down the middle of it.
Put an inch.
I've never done one just because I know that we would mess it up. So I'm just like, you know what? I only got so many story pages. I ain't putting this double.
Right. Yeah, he's got these beautiful numbers that he can tell you exactly how big it needs to be and everything else.
That's why you go to professionals who know what they're doing.
Exactly. The guys that have been doing it a long time. Because when we first started doing it, like for the listener, there's this beautiful the first issue. We did two of them in that book. There's a beautiful one where Sonny is literally cutting these dudes' faces like with two tomahawks, and it's a beautiful page. There's blood everywhere, but it's huge, all and on his face. But then you've got this split right next to his face, because I was like, oh, put it on his fucking face, but it's down his shoulder. But you have to, if you wanted to see all the detail that's in that artwork, you'd have to pull the page apart to see how detailed it is in the middle. So yeah, we'll definitely get you guys the numbers, because it's such a cool thing. It's just like one of those trick of the eye type of deals, but you get the art, and it's beautiful.
I believe you. I just want to know how to do it.
I gotta go check all my old '90s books and see if they did that or not.
And a lot of the '90s ones, they started turning them sideways, right, so they could fit it.
And it's funny because you would see Jim Lee and stuff do these massive pages like that, and you'd just be like, man, that's really, really cool. And I'm like, did they do that before? And he was like, I don't know, but that's the way to do it. And I was watching him talk about it on a video, and it was dope. So I'm in it 100%. There's these just little nuances and you'll see that Marvel smashes themselves sometimes now, because they'll do dialogue and they'll cut off people's faces. Like they'll put the bubbles up there, and it's a shame because they've been doing books so long, right? So they'll put they'll put these bubbles all the way across because they're trying to get a long conversation in, right? and then it's all the way across the panel though, and it's like, dude, what? And then there's another one that they've done recently, and this is all with ES, man. So if you guys have got ES questions for lettering and stuff, ask us.
I just checked
about it.
I just checked Hush. They don't got it in this one.
No, I don't know.
Debunk.
They may not have
They're
it.
lying. No, I'm just playing.
They may not have it in old books. It was just something he showed me that worked for us.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Right.
No,
But
that's cool.
it's another thing that they've done recently in X-Men books, and we noticed it, and I about shit, is there's a panel in New X-Men where there's two panels that are the same artwork. It's just zoomed in.
Yeah, they do that all the time. Yeah.
And I was like, that's the cheesiest
Stat panels,
shit
yeah.
ever.
Stat panel.
Like,
I
how
think
do
it's
you use
okay. It
the
can
artwork?
work, you know. Even
No,
somebody great like
man.
Sam Keith has done the stat panel where it,
I
just
hate
changed.
it.
Yeah.
It's so cheesy. Don't.
But
people are
that's a
buying-
great example. We can all, you all have given the most amazing advice. People, just listening to this could create a comic almost start to finish. But what I will say on it is just throw all that shit out the window, do whatever you want, make your mistakes. My first comic was photocopied. We took it to conventions. It was the greatest feeling of my life just to create something. But you will make mistakes all the way because we could give you all the advice in the world. And again, like you said, you don't absorb it until you see your horrible lettering that you did in your comic, and you're like, oh Jesus!
Oh God, I look back at some of that early lettering, and I was so proud of it. And it was better than other stuff I saw. But I look at it now, and I'm just like, oh my God,
No, I forgot
can't-
punctuation.
It's got my name on it.
I did so many mistakes, but yeah.
This
And I
was
look back,
our,
I'm like, can I spell? What's wrong with me?
Oh no.
I actually I hate it. I hate working on a project now where they want to have a separate letterer just for the stress of as the artist trying to make sure I leave enough room and I don't leave too much room and there's not big gaping open holes because I was expecting there to be a lot of dialogue and then they changed it to one word balloon. I prefer being able to do it myself now because I will do it in the rough pencil stage. I will letter everything out and then I can move my pencils around and make sure I make the best use out of each panel and send that as the roughs. You can check how the dialogue flows. You can check how everything's going. If you like it, then we move on. But when I don't have that, when I'm having to count on somebody else to do the lettering afterwards, I'm stressing out so much more trying to make sure that there's enough room and trying to imagine where they're going to put it because I can't just put it there, and
For sure.
stresses me out.
this was our
So-
second comic that we ever made, and I actually wrote the entire thing. It's only 12 pages. I wrote it, and then the artist did, the job. And then me and Dylan went back through it, and he's like, "This script does not follow the art because we didn't really go through it because it was our second comic we ever worked on." And I was like, "Okay." So we went through it, and then now it's just all narration, and it's just narrating the entire time. So it's like him talking in the past.
But that's why I say, look at the art, compare it to the script, every single page that comes in.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
Don't
maybe
just
you might
assume.
want to change your work based on what they did, and sometimes you want them to change theirs based on what you did. And sometimes if it's a small enough correction, if it's going to an inker or a colorist, they can usually take care of that for you, depending on your artist and what how much possession they feel.
yeah. And ask yourself,
Over
what are your goals going in? Yeah, if your goal is to be as successful as Kara and Dustin and Mr. Fish here, yeah. But if your goal is just to make comics with friends, which is kind of what I do, then do your own thing. We all have different goals
Absolutely.
and how we do this.
Absolutely.
It's all about
But
having
like
fun,
she's
right?
saying, though, as an artist for hire, it's frustrating to me if I send you the roughs and you say, "Oh yeah, this is perfect." So I move on with it, and then we get to the inks or the colors, and you're like, "Oh, whoa, wait a minute, he was supposed to be going the other direction,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "That was clearly in there before, but you
I'll
didn't
admit
look.
I made that mistake.
You
I made
didn't
that
pay
mistake.
attention. You told me it was awesome, so I finished it, and now I'm like, I got to go back and change all this.
I
It's
got
7
one.
layers.
You got to
It's
ask
so
for more credit
crazy
on that.
about with this one, John. We did Greed when it came out. Greed was so fun. When we brought Manny on, Manny is a cartoonist, right? And which, like you mentioned earlier, don't bring on a certain type of artist if you want to see another type of art. You know what I mean? And a great cartoonist and a great human being in general. Also a vet, so that was one of the reasons we so happy to work with him. And he does. So he goes in for Greed, and he'll beat me for talking about this story live. But so through the whole book, I wrote he was our main character was barefoot. Well, because he's a kid and he's wearing his PJs and whatever, and well, Manny put him in socks, but David, who was reading the book and the script that I put out, was coloring and being so skillful, changing things just enough with the lines to make it look like he was barefoot all throughout the book. When you get to the end, there's clearly a page where the sock has been pulled up further on the foot. And he was like, Dustin, I can't fucking fix that. So I had to send it to Manny and be like, dude, you got to go back. We got to fix this. You know what I mean? So that's one of the great things about having editors and people involved and other people that see what you're doing. And you may not see it because you're so close to the project.
Oh, yeah.
You don't see this little nuance because you're happy, right? And I'll say this, and I know other creators feel the same way. When you see those pages, it's almost like Christmas. Like every time you get them, it's literally like you're so stoked that you got new pages. So you're going through and you're just elated, and like Mr. Fish mentioned, you look at it, man, because you get so excited. You're like, oh, it's dope. It's great. It's yada, yada. And you're like, why does this foot look funky?
But you got to look at it critically, not just, oh my God, I'm getting to see my characters in real life. Like you got to really look and see if it matches up what you were asking for, what you wanted.
Nowadays, also make sure your artists work in layers. That's another key point. Make sure your artists work in layers, because if they don't, it can really suck later on. But layers helps everybody. It really does help everybody, especially if you have to edit or anything like that. Make sure you're getting thumbnails too. Jesus, John, we really could write a how-to with this. Make sure you're getting thumbnails from your artists.
You guys are just giving away all the trade secrets.
Yeah,
none of us are going to have jobs in a week. No.
Yeah, thumbnails. If you don't have thumbnails, you can't be mad at your artist. You know what I mean? Because request the thumbnails, because then they're going to get irritated if they've gone in and done all this work, and you're like, "Hey, dude, that's not fucking right." You know what I mean? Well, why didn't you ask for a preview, Dustin? Why didn't you ask to see what I was working on? You can't always rely on them to do that little extra step or two. You know what I mean? Because they rely on you to give them the correct information.
Like you said,
there can be so many little things that go wrong. Like just the wrong edit in a script can make the script say something different than what you intended it to be. I could misinterpret, a phrase that you use and think you were going for something else. Like I remember one book I was working on, I interpreted what he said in the book as like the lady in the hallway was heartbroken over this guy pining away over his wife that he hasn't seen in years. So I draw her like her heart's breaking in the hallway. And in the next book, the script is like, okay, she doesn't have an emotional attachment. She's not in love with him. And I'm like, I interpreted it from the script, and apparently he didn't catch it till the book came out. And so now he's rewriting it in the next book, so that doesn't.
That's money, man. It's money, all that stuff. And like I mentioned earlier, and especially, you guys talk about you pay for what you get. You know what I mean? When we try to keep, like right now, because we're in stores and we're working on being other places right now, we tried, like when we started, our books were $20 to $30 a piece because of production costs and everything else. I've managed to get them down, still paying the teams what I was paying before, but get the books down to $14.99. You know what I mean? So there's no wiggle room for errors like that. There's no wiggle room to go in and be like, you got to redo this. Because I'm always of the opinion that if I fuck up, I'm going to pay you. I mean, regardless if you ask me or not, we're going to get paid for my error. You know what I mean? That's just the way the things change.
Oh, yeah. I've gone back and changed like 8 pages of art because I forgot to put a dude's belt on.
Right.
Like, when they pointed it out and they're like, oh, it's okay. I was like, no, it's not okay.
Yeah, it looks silly.
I mean, it's on the reference and I missed it. I'm going back and redrawing all this. Absolutely. And it cemented those clients forever because they left me now.
Right.
For our first comic, Seer Chronicles, like the first version of that, there was a language barrier because the dude was from Brazil. And so there was a couple things that we had to deal with. And then another thing was it was the first comic that I was ever getting made. So what I did was when I first looked at the pages, I was just like, oh my God, this is awesome. And then
I still do that.
I'm like, oh, that's good. Okay, I move forward. I'm like, no. And he's like, here's page 15 to 20. I was like, no. No. So what we do is I say, okay, that's cool or whatever, and I'm like, I mentioned something specific. I don't just say awesome and then move on because I think that's just boring.
Right.
Actually, like tell your artist that they're doing a good job, and
Yeah.
then like, but what I say the first time doesn't mean you can move on. Dylan needs to look at it, and when Dylan and I look at it together on Sundays or whatever, then there'll be comments. If there's comments that are good, then you move on to the next page. If there's not, then you fix what.
That's learning with a new team again, learning how they work and stuff. Like every time I'm starting with a new client, and they're like, "Oh man, that's awesome." I was like, "Okay, is that the approval for me to move on to the next step?" Because people are surprised with how fast I work. And, you know, a lot of times they're used to an artist where, like, if you're hiring me for a pinup, let's say, they're used to getting pencils today, inks next week, colors the week after. I'm like, I send you the pencils now. I'm looking for an approval now because I plan on sending you the inks in 2 hours and the colors by the end of the day. I'm not screwing around.
Right. Yeah, that's fast, dude, for sure. Right on. We did that with Ed Garcia, who joined our team recently. Great guy. He was like, well, you know, when so-and-so major publisher asked me to get a book out, I have 2 to 3 months. That's the amount of time I have. But I work so much that I've gotten down a workflow so I can have a page done in a day, 2 pages done in 2 days, whatever else. And I was like, okay, none of my team works like that. So it's normally, you know, I get 5 pages in a 2-week span. You know what I mean? And the book is done. The book is done and colored in 8 weeks. The whole thing is done and colored in 8 weeks. I got 10 pages from Ed the other day, and I didn't even know how to feel about it because we just talked about it like a couple days prior. So 10 pages for me, like inked and everything. I was like, hey, look, but we have changes. We have changes. You know what I mean?
I finished the last issue of Sentinels, the entire book, penciled, lettered, inked, colored, ready to go to print in 12 working days. Now, granted, that one was like my top speed. That was and mistakenly my OCD said, okay, that's how fast we do books now. So I started scheduling 2 a month. Turns out I can't do that every time. But on that particular book, I got it in 12 days. But like on these books that I work on regularly, I know the characters, like the whole team of the Sentinels, I know them. I can draw them in my sleep. So like I jump from like thumbnails to inks and, you know, it saves me a lot of time because I know them. But like, you know, if he doesn't check it well, like that's when that one scene slipped through because he's looking over the thumbnails. He's like, oh yeah, this looks great. And I showed the emotion in the thumbnails. Like I hit that point. But, you know, he didn't look close enough and I work fast and there the book's done. I would have changed it. Absolutely. If he had said, no, I don't want her to have that emotion, right. I would have fixed it because that's my mistake. But, you know, yeah.
You know, another fun one is like tattoos, right? Tattoos in comic books. And, you know, not only tattoos, but let's say you're doing like a lizard person or somebody with a scar or anything like that. You know what I mean? You have got one key thing for somebody starting in this industry, I think is awesome. And I was told in the beginning, which I'm so thankful for, or I'd have been in all kinds of shit, was make your layout. You know what I mean? Like I said, talked about layers earlier. Make sure that you go in and lay out your scar for characters. Save the file so you can just put it right where it needs to be at every time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, same thing with tattoos. Because as much as our fans love us, as much as the readers love the books, there's always going to be somebody that points out a misplaced tattoo or a misplaced scar or something you forgot. Let's say
wristwatch jumped wrists.
Absolutely.
Or, you know,
absolutely. Yeah. Uh-oh, Greg's got it.
Uh-oh. Greg, we don't need you to air all your dirty laundry. I know it's your show, but
second book.
So
he said the whole second book.
This hand was actually on a different arm at one point. And, like the panel was weird.
Yeah.
And then we went back through it and we're like, it's gonna be on the other arm.
we did a series, 17 issues, Hellbillies. Brian Bowles and I did for 5 years, and we had a character missing a hand. And when we went to go to trade, we realized in multiple issues it flipped. So we had before the trade, we had to sit there and flip the art.
Oh my god! So I do that, and I try and be really obsessive about it because I usually ink in reverse, to catch mistakes, in symmetry and stuff. I'll pencil it, then I'll flip it, and I'll ink it in reverse, and then when I flip it back, any mistakes I can jump out and you can fix them real easy. But because I'm working backwards a lot, sometimes like in Green Zone, it's following a new recruit of cops and the badge will shift sides. Or like this one cop is like a 8-foot mutant lizard dude. And so he's so big, he has to wear his belt on his wrist because he has to be in uniform or they'll fire him. So he has to wear it around his giant wrist instead of his waist.
Right.
And there's 3 panels I got to go back and redraw. The book is freaking done. I got to go back and fix 3 panels because that belt jumped because I was reversed.
No, you just said it's a reflection. There was a mirror. That's the
Man, how cool! Like how
we'll
cool
put a caption.
Is it now, though, that you guys have light boards now? I mean, that's the coolest thing in the world. Like I was talking to a particular artist that's a great friend of ours. That does a lot of shows with us. So I'm not going to drop her name, but someone that does a lot of shows with me. Anyway, so she doesn't use Photoshop. So like whenever you would see nude swipes from her, they'd be full pages redone. You know what I mean? So she's not literally just sitting there changing it over the light board. She's literally drawing it again, know? And it's so cool to see how talented people are nowadays, with the technology that we have, because not everybody uses Photoshop. Like I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned it live just a minute ago or I did. Devin Massey. So Devin Massey, right? Love him to pieces. Great human being, but he doesn't use a computer at all. So like when we were going to get our cover from him, he was like, "Hey, Dustin, I have to mail it to a buddy to have a buddy scan it and send it to you." And I remember thinking just how cool that was. You know what I mean? Because now we take all this technology for granted, and you've got people out there that drop bangers by hand still. Like
that's part of what makes me so fast. If I draw an awesome character, but he's just the wrong size or he's a little bit too far to one side, I can just select him and move him and then ink it. I don't have to erase it and get everything in perspective again. I love traditional, but man, I save so much time because I drew the perfect hand, but it's a hair too big. Shrink it, it's perfect.
But you can see another cool thing, like right now, is one of our artists. What he'll do is he goes in, like I'm an engineer. I classically trained, so what I do is I work with Maya and a couple other programs and I can build you things to scale, right? What he does is the same concept. What he does is he goes in and creates rigs for each of our characters, so then they're all, I see that quizzical look, Greg. They're all always the same scale. The fingers, toes, whatever, what have you, are always the exact same. There's never any funky arm. There's never a Rob Liefeld moment. There's never, you know what I mean? Because of the fact that they're all already built. You know what I mean? Now we just go in and paint them every time. It's a really cool concept. But a lot of people don't like to see 3D rendered artwork. You know what I mean? But it's getting to the point now where there are brushes and stuff that make it so you would never even know the difference.
Oh yeah. Like I hire out, I used to do 3D animation and design and stuff, but that was so many generations of software ago. Like they don't even make this stuff they taught me in college anymore.
Right.
So now I just hire it out. And like in my Green Zone book, they have these giant overbuilt, like military industrial looking cop cars. I knew I was going to have to draw these cop cars 1,000 times. So I hired a guy to make me a 3D model. And now I pull that in Clip Studio. I get it, bend it around to shape, and then I draw over it. But I don't have to plot out and make sure I don't forget the hood scoop and I don't forget, oh, wait a minute, there's those extra lights on the side and, all that. It's already there. I draw it out. It's still my artwork. I'm still drawing over it. It just saves me an hour of plotting it out and lets me get to the good stuff.
So are you ready to draw my comic called Cars, Horses, Drum Sets, and Tattoos?
What's really
coming
cool,
out next week.
Yes, $500 a
Yeah, right,
page.
there
I
you
will
go.
do that for
I
you.
knew I was walking into that one. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, well, that's like a segue into shows like this. We could easily, like John mentioned, we could easily go in and give you the 411 on information, but you would have to be able to find that. Like we talked about earlier, people that come into this industry don't have those resources, right? You can't just go, I need to talk to Kara about being a good cosplayer and see what she knows because she's good at it. I should ask her questions. Or I can't go to Greg and be like, man, you're good at podcasts and you do awesome shows. How do I go about doing this? How do I go about building an audience? You know what I mean?
How do I develop a decade of friendships with people in the comics industry that I can call on, today when I've never done this before? Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
And that's interesting because
most of you are professionals in this field. I am not. My day job, thankfully, supports the family and everything, so I can do this as a hobby. But I am a social worker by trade, and I will tell you it's very similar in that field. I'm not saying don't give advice to people. I'm not saying don't help people, but Dustin, your path is different, and you have to experience things in order to make those choices. So I could tell you exactly what to do from A to B to get 100 people buying your books like I do. You could do the same for yours, but it's just not going to be the same. People have to find their own path. People don't listen to advice.
If you're still dependent on me to give you all the answers, then you're not going to learn how to do it yourself, and you need to learn how to make your own books. Because I got to make my own books. I ain't got time to hold your hand the whole time. Like, I love to answer questions. I love to help people a little bit too much sometimes, and I get caught up in a lot of answering questions that I'm like, I made a video about that on TikTok. Literally, you could go watch it and get the same answers.
TikTok.
But, I'm always happy to help, but I can only do so much. Like, you've got to learn on yourself. You got to make your own mistakes. Sometimes putting out that book with really crappy lettering is going to sink that in your head, and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to learn this, or I'm going to hire somebody because I don't want to make that mistake again. And mistakes I've learned from the hard way are mistakes I ain't never going to forget. I guarantee you that.
For sure. Absolutely. I mean, then you go into videos, right? That's the newest trend, in the past 2 years, adding videos to Kickstarters or to show your product off. I joke about that, but it's dead serious. Even Marvel Comics and DC are putting out videos now to promote it's the industry standard. You know what I mean? So how does one go about doing that? How does one do this? You know what I mean? Those are really cool concepts for videos. And I think Joe's absolutely on it with that. It's really cool to be able to give people the 411 or, give them the, the tools. But like Mr. Fish said, you can lead a horse to water. You know what I mean? I didn't want to hear it.
It's also a little different for me, guys, because you guys are all producing books, you're getting them out there, right? So I'm not putting together a book. I'm not publishing anything other than a magazine that's coming out. So
that's something in itself.
As a media company, our focus for the first 2 years was putting out videos to help the community. So, there's over 200 videos that we've already put out in the last 2 years. And it's 6 different shows. Some of them are specifically about process and how to do certain things. How do you run a campaign? How do you do digital art? All that sort of stuff. We've got shows like this where people are constantly talking things through about how they're getting their book out. So, like, that was our main purpose, to get that information and basically take the community and move it to people. Like you said, Mr. Fish, like, hey, how do I get you 10 years of my experience making building those relationships? That's basically what we did for the first 2 years, was just really kind of bring those that community to a video space where people can watch it. So I get it. Like, Dustin and I think we disagree a little bit, but not for any bad reasons. Like, I think for you're like, hey, I've done this 150 times. At some point, I got to pull the plug and get to work. I can't hold their hand through. Like, you got to jump in the water and swim.
Well, they want it for free. That's my issue. And that's what we talked about. They don't want to. They don't realize that your time is so valuable. That's why you have a team. Because I can't. I literally, if I sat and went over every project because we have 5 books in production right now. You know what I mean? So if I don't schedule a time like this, and I'll always schedule it for Greg because he's my friend, you know what I mean? But you get these concepts where people are like, hey, can you do this? Or, hey, can you do this? And you're like, cool, look, it's $100 for 5 pages or whatever else that I'm writing for you to put together. I'm writing a script for a film. It's $15,000 for a young director coming up right now. Okay, so all that takes time. When he first reached out to me, he was like, Dustin, can you write this? And I was like, yeah, but it costs because my time costs. You know what I mean? Just like an artist, when they give you a charge, you know what I mean? They're like, hey, look, it's $500 or $400, whatever it is. They're charging you not only for the art, but for their time. You know what I mean? They're charging you for what they're doing. Like right now, there are people right now, if you look online anywhere, there are people that walk dogs. Okay. They walk dogs. They walk dogs because the guy that owns the dog doesn't have the time to walk the dog. You know what I mean? That's why they're paying them to do it. They don't have time to do it. So when you ask an artist for something for free, or a writer or a director or anybody else, they're literally going, that's 8 hours of my day. Like if you ask me to go over your script, I'm in it for hours. You know what I mean? And I can go to McDonald's right now and get a job apparently for like $18 an hour.
Make some fat cash in those same hours.
You know what I mean? So when you say, hey, can you help me? Yes, God bless. I will help you all day long. You know what I mean? But it comes to a point where when you want me to rewrite it or you want me to tell you what to do, that's a whole different animal. Now you're asking for my services versus my opinion. You know what I mean? And
you have to be careful the way people are going to take advice, because like I had one situation and it was a joke. I did not mean it this way, but a dude hit me up when he had seen like how packed my schedule was. And I had said something about being booked like through July or whatever before the end of the year. And, he hit me up, was like, hey man, how could I get like that? And like, we've talked before and I jokingly said, well, all you need is a friend, like insert friend's name here, who is an old friend of mine. And, it was a lucky coincidence that we happened to work on a book together and he started commissioning me for stuff. And that led to all my full-time gigs now because they all were friends of friends and led from that. And I just jokingly said, oh, you just need a friend like him. He goes and starts hitting this dude up like, dude, what can I do? How can I get a career like it? And he hits me up. He's like, man, what did you tell this guy? I was like, oh man, I am sorry. I did not think he was going to take it that way. Like, I thought it was clear I was joking. I was using some ridiculous language in what we said. But, no, he took it as literal. He needs to go hit him up, and this is the way he's going to do it. And it's not going to work exact same way. There's some things we can learn from each other. The hard work, the constantly posting and sharing and getting your stuff out there, the making friendships and connections. Like Dustin said it brilliantly earlier about Kickstarter. Like if I go to your Kickstarter and this is like your second one you've made and you've never backed any, that stands out to me. That's one thing I tell young creators all the time. I was like, if you have any hopes of putting a book out in the next couple of years, you need to budget $20, $30, $40, whatever a month you can afford, and start regularly backing Kickstarters now and become part of the community. Get involved, get to know these creators, tell, hey man, your book was awesome. I loved this about it. That's going to show, like, look at it as investing in your business, because then when you launch your Kickstarter and it says, this is my first one, I've backed 400, that tells the community that you're involved, and that's a great little thing to learn.
Trish, dude, look at Trish in the comments right now. The Bingtons have always, all of our circle anyway, at least Kara and my circle, they've always supported us, every one of us. So as soon as their book went live, the entire tribe was supporting their book. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because they're kind to us. They show us love. Look at her right now in the comments. She's got a live project right now, and she's posting our links in the comments.
Thanks, Trish.
You know what I mean? These are little
really,
things that you can't teach people to be a human being. You can't.
Exactly. That's just being a genuine person, be part of this community. The community is small. It seems. Oh, Kara's on mute.
Yeah, she's muted
somehow.
Kara, you're on mute.
You're muted.
I'm muted. Crap. We're all going to go into Trish and Mike's Kickstarter because we want to know what they learned from us too. We're excited for them because they've been watching and collecting all this knowledge. Okay, what are you going to give us now? Yeah. It's almost like Pornhub.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like they.
Is it?
When you go to like Sonic, right? and you can go into Sonic like right now, and my daughter's crazy about it. She'll go to Sonic and she'll be like, hey, you can put this candy in my ice cream, but can you put this candy, this candy, this candy, and this candy in my ice cream, right? So it's like, it's like we all expect so much from them because they're such good people, and they've watched us. They've watched us grow and mold into what we are.
Oh yeah.
So we're
the people that are always on your shows and asking questions and commenting, the people that are commenting on your posts and sharing your posts, I guarantee you, like when that person turns around and asks me like, hey, can we get on 5 Star Fridays and pitch our book? Absolutely. We will get you in, hands down. I will do whatever I can to help you because you have always been there and had my back.
Exactly.
That is,
and speaking of learning, if you look at the cover artists that they've got, their cover artists that work for the whole tribe. Justin Hunt's on there, Steph Wilson's on there, David Fott. God bless David Fott. David Flott's on there. There's a lot of really cool people that, I'm glad he's feeling better. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of cool folks on there that run in the same circles. So to see them and like learning, it's almost like an evolution. Like we're the old guard almost. Even though we haven't been around forever, it's still like the young bucks are coming up and you're like, that's so cool. That's awesome. Good job. We're proud of you. It's just cool, man.
I definitely feel like the old guard with all y'all coming up. So I have no delusions of grandeur that I will ever, make $1 million or be insanely successful. But I appreciate, conversations like this and meeting people and going to conventions and this is what I do it for. Of course, I want to pay my artists and get the books out there, but really, I just enjoy being part of this community. And
right on, man. And then the coolest thing, like I'll tell you what, one cool thing, one other really super special thing that I can tell you guys for the new and up and comers and whatnot is, so we did a show. We did Baltimore, right? I didn't have a booth, but I was going to see half the team at Baltimore, and I was taking them books and stuff. So I drive 18 hours to Baltimore, right? And the dinner reservations got all dicked up in Baltimore. So I'm halfway across the city versus where everybody else is at, okay? I'm sitting there, I'm hanging out, and it was cool to see my mom. My mom went and stuff. It was nice to see her. And I had a fan reach out and go, hey, Dustin, we're in the area. We know you were at the show. We saw some photos. Is there any way we could get together tonight? I'm not saying you should meet all your fans. I'm not saying that's but if you have people that support you constantly and you'll see them and you'll meet them, you'll have those fans that support every single project you put out. And when they do, though, and if they ask you for a kindness, always reciprocate that kindness. It doesn't have to be huge. So he called me. He was like, Dustin, are you busy? I was like, no, you know what? We're at this restaurant. If you and your wife would like to come meet us for dinner, we're at this restaurant. You know what I mean? I'm not saying bring your entourage, but come hang out. We'll enjoy the evening, or if it's a birthday of a fan that buys stuff all the time and they happen to miss out, they missed this copy of an issue that you've got out or something, and the birthday comes up. Shoot them the fucking copy, man. It costs you $3 to send $4
absolutely
one book. Send it to them for their birthday, and they appreciate that. It's just like people. We're all people. So, and we all appreciate kindnesses. So little things like that will make not just a fan, but you'll gain a friend. You'll gain a backer. You'll gain, somebody that's they'll join your tribe. If you look at like, oh my gosh, there's a ton of them. They're great people. Look at Thomas right now. And Kara knows Thomas. Thomas backs all our books, all of our projects, all of us, like the whole fucking tribe. He backs everybody. And he's a good person. You know what I mean? So little nuances like that, man, make people feel it. We appreciate you as much as you appreciate us. Because like I said, I do this full time. I couldn't make a living without people looking out for me,
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, just go out of your way, man. Those little nuances. If you do a Christmas cover, dude, and you only do like 20 of them, make sure those big backers get a Christmas card with, one copy in it that you're giving them. You know what I mean? Sign it, number it. It feels good. It makes people want to support you. I mean,
can I jump in on this as a female creator? We do need to be a little more cautious because being nice to people a lot of times when you're female gets construed as, oh,
she loves me.
You mean I'm in your bubble now?
Oh
Here,
Lord.
let me try to touch your butt. Or, hey, what's your bra size?
Yeah, or like meeting a fan
hey,
in person. I'm
how you doing?
400 pounds. I don't have to worry about somebody tossing me in a
Right.
trunk and running off
As a
with me.
woman, if you do not get back to someone, they will neg you and be like, why are you such a snob? Like, because I've been busy and I've had 1,000 things to do besides say, hey, back to you.
I was
Like, kiss
talking
my
with a
ass.
friend of mine
Seriously?
recently. Like,
You
she's
know-
a young artist starting her career, and this dude clearly was breaking her terms of service, you know, that she had laid out clearly, and wanted a full refund when she was halfway done with the work. And it says clearly, like, after 2 weeks, there is no refund.
Yeah.
And it amazed me how quickly he went into like bully mode, just thinking because she's a female creator, look, you don't want to talk to me like that. You don't know who you're talking to. I know where you are. And I was like, would nobody talk that way to me? And it just, I wanted to go find this dude because like that is so uncool.
I still can't believe the audacity that like, and as a dude, I don't experience that. And I'll say this though, I changed my profile picture a couple months ago to my wife and my kids, right? And I got unsolicited thing pictures, and I was never expecting that. And I kept my name. I didn't change my name. My name was the same. You know what I mean? So they don't even look at the name. So yeah, I it's a very different world. You know what I mean? I imagine that it's very, very different. And there are some of us that have not been around things like that. Like in our household, we have a daughter. You know, she's 11 years old. I'm covered in nudes, like female nudes all over my body. But there's nothing lewd in my tattoos. We're, I guess you'd call it modern feminists. I mean, I try to teach my daughter to be proud of who she is and how beautiful she is and stuff. And my wife's the same way, you know, because my wife was picked on and bullied as a kid. So we do everything we can to empower our daughter, you know, and I guess it's still weird to me to hear that kind of stuff happens. And I'm sorry it occurs because I've never been subject to that or around that or, you know, never even had girlfriends that had things like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, not great. What am I saying?
But it's more than just dick pics. It's really very interesting. It's almost an aggression and a requirement that they are purchasing you. So the thing is the people that will come and do that to me, they don't do that to Alfred.
For sure. I imagine. Yeah.
You know, they do it to me, and they will prey upon women. And I've seen lots of ladies do this where, oh, this guy's going to buy my whatever. Okay, well, good for you, but you don't know that. And men will oftentimes try to entice women with the promise of money. That they think that like, oh, this is all we care about. This is what we need. We need your money, you know, and that's not the case. You know what I mean? Like, and they'll do that. And I will see women, oh, but I could sell this. Oh, but what if he actually wants to buy it? Like, who gives a shit? Like, don't even, like, just don't, you know, when you purchase, like, I hate, and I'm going to lose about $10,000 right now. When you come to me to buy my book, you're buying my book. You're not buying my time. You're not buying me flirting with you. You are not buying a boob pic of me unless you get that cover, in which case that is what I owe you, not my time, my resources, or my emotional fortitude. It is my job to give you a book and entertain you in that capacity. It is not my job to go, that's so beautiful. I just think about you all day long. No, that is not my fucking job.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry that even. Oh my God, that's awful.
Right.
I mean, so like that doesn't happen to me. I just met murder turtles and
terrible terrapins and whatnot for sure. I mean, you don't have to worry about any of those.
That's so shitty.
But we take that for granted, right? That's one thing. Like we talked, like I said, I've got an 11-year-old daughter, and it's constantly, hey, own yourself. You are strong. You are powerful. It doesn't matter what people say. You know what I mean? And she's, you know, she came home the other day, and I'm like, I hate saying I put my wife in the lead role in parenting when it comes to my daughter, but she has more experience. She understands what it's like to be a girl. She's been there. You know? So like she came home and she was like, hey, I got called a bitch at school today. And I was like, you're just turning 12 years old. Who on earth uses that kind of language toward you? And she was like, it was a kid on the playground and whatnot. And I'm going, she was like, oh, he's a friend. I was like, he's not a friend if he calls you that, first off. That's not your friend, So I can only imagine what it's like to be a grown woman and have to deal with the same shenanigans,
coming from all directions all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I've only ever had one dude hit on me, and I was flattered. Like, it was dude working at McDonald's. I swear to God, I ate McDonald's every night that week because it feels nice to know somebody thinks you're pretty. I mean, hell yeah.
But that's the problem, though. That's the problem. When you are a young woman and people are coming after you because you're pretty and they're hunting you down. And so for those of you that have daughters, if you think about it, with a little girl, when Uncle Creepshow wants to come up and give her a hug and a kiss, what are those young ladies told? Go give him a hug and a kiss. You don't want to be a bag.
Don't tell him no, you're going to hurt his feelings.
You're going to hurt his feelings. So girls are trained with that from a very young age to feel guilty. But if a boy runs away and doesn't want to give Uncle Creepshow a hug, nobody cares. Oh, you know how boys are. When your little girl says, I don't want to, okay, do not make her give Uncle Creepshow or anybody else a hug or a kiss or sit on someone's fucking lap or anything. Let them have their own bodily autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
There's so much conditioning that goes into it that we don't even realize. Like, you think as a parent you're teaching your kids good manners, but you're conditioning them that I don't matter. How I feel about this doesn't matter. I need to make everybody else feel okay. And, that's not right. That just leads to all the other problems.
For sure. It's crazy, man. I thought was wild. We ran a show in Jacksonville years ago. We ran a small con in Jacksonville, and it was really, really cool. But we had this dude, and everybody warns you, right? When you do a convention, everybody warns you in certain areas about the folks. You know what I mean? Like, they tell you what's going to be, who's going to be bad, who's not going to be able to stay and whatnot. And me, I'm all like, bullshit. Everybody's great people. You know what I mean? So we do this. It was the first cosplay competition with $1 prize in Jacksonville. We did $10,000 prize in Jacksonville. And it was so cool because we had all kinds of local, professional cosplayers locally that were at the show. And we had this dude walk up and he literally had pinched this chick and immediate removal from the show. You know what I mean? But I always thought it was a joke. Like, I didn't believe that kind of thing happened. Like, I really didn't, because we don't live that lifestyle. We don't live around, we don't associate with those type of people. So we had no idea it was occurring. And so when it happened, it was like cold water to the face. Now all of a sudden, hey, look, now you've got dudes that we've put intermittently, not just dudes, but women as well, intermittently in the show to pay attention to how people are treating cosplayers, because there's crazy people in the world. You know what I mean? Like, my wife's walking around dressed as Lucy from Fairy Tale, and I'm like, if somebody pinches her ass, I'm going to kill him. So it turned into...
Like, I couldn't imagine even touching a cosplayer, like, to put my arm around her. Like, I don't know this woman. If I'm going to take a picture with her, like, we can stand nearby, but I'm not going to go grabbing her, much less... I can't imagine it. But, like, I've got friends that are beautiful young female cosplayers that have had this stuff happen to them a lot. So, like, at one of our local shows here, we did a thing where we put signs in, like, the ladies' room. It was like, look for this sign. If you're feeling uncomfortable, you can come to our table and hang out. We'll leave an extra chair. And, like, me and my giant son had a chair, like, right behind us. Anybody wants to come sit down, you can come sit here. Ain't nobody getting past us to mess with you,
That's dope. We've got VillaCon next week in Orlando, and it's a huge cosplay convention for like 2 years in a row now. That's what it's touted as, cosplay, just cosplay primarily, So April and I are doing, taking books and whatnot, and my wife is coming, and my daughter was like, hey, I don't get to do anything because of COVID recently. Can I go? And me, I'm like, yeah, let's go. It'll be a good time. You can hang out, whatever. And I saw this thing that it was like, be mindful of your children because there are certain people that are paying attention to young cosplayers now and stuff. And I was like, well, that's not creepy. So instead of cosplaying this major show like she wants to, she's just going dressed as she normally dresses, because now we're all kind of like, hey, that's strange, you know. So until this weirdness dies down, we're just gonna, you know, do the normal vibe, man.
Oh yeah, my stepdaughter's a cosplayer, and like we went to the Little Rock Con for the first time, you know, with her in full costume, and she got to meet up with a bunch of her cosplay friends that she's been friends with online. And I was like, you know, okay, y'all can stay together as long as y'all are together. And there was like a parent following the group, and I was like, you know, if you are not with them, you are with us. And most of the time we stayed, you know, within eye line of her, because, you know, I love her and I love what she's doing. I'm so proud of her. I'm proud of her bravery and her courage, but I will break anybody that puts her hands on her.
Absolutely.
Against her will.
So I tried for years. I would pitch this to conventions about cosplay safety. I wanted to do a panel on cosplay safety, where I teach you that guy over there that's in his 60s or 50s or whatever does not like you for your personality.
Right.
He will not help you with your cosplay career.
He's not so impressed with how mature you are.
Right. He does not, you're not bonding on another level. And unfortunately, conventions, I've done a few where they were interested, but I've gotten a lot of kickback. That would never happen at my con. Bullshit. Because I'm seeing it all over the internet right now that this happened at your con and that happened at your con. And oh, look, that girl ended up practically dead outside of a con, you know? And it's even for the men that are hanging around. You don't know that she's over 18. You get her ID before you even
exactly, man. With all the makeup and the costumes and stuff, like, you don't know if she's 40 or 14 or a dude. Like, you don't know.
So
you don't need to be coming in groping on people.
When
you don't
you're
need to
at
be
that
making
convention
assumptions.
and you've got your camera and you're just taking pictures of cosplayers, and that little girl's half naked with her cooter hanging out because she doesn't know how to wear dance tights or thinks it's sexier to not do it. If she is a minor, you now are in possession of child pornography.
They freak me out, the camera dudes. And I'm not saying that there aren't legit camera dudes out there. You know what I mean? But the ones that just walk around snapping freak me out. Like, they freak me out. Like, it's,
some of them are hired. Like, I have a friend who has to do that, and at certain times he's like, I can't even. I can't shoot anything because I don't know how old these girls are. But he works for a local magazine. So he goes to conventions and he takes photos and he sends them to the magazine. Yeah, so
I'm just
you know,
weird about it. I'm like, hey, look,
but then you have people that are like, well, cosplay's not consent. Okay, good for you, but guess what? When you are at a convention, you are in a public space, and anyone is allowed to shoot you. They can't go sticking their camera in the bathroom underneath the stalls or whatever. But you are not in possession of a private space. So when you say, you can't take a picture of me, guess what, honey? Yes, they can. So you better go to the bathroom, put your clothes back on, and then go back out to the convention if it's going to be a problem. Because not only do they own that photo, they can sell that photo.
So creepy.
And I know one girl who was like, hey, so this is a picture of me at my table at Dragon Con. But this is a cosplay book that I am not a part of, but I'm on the cover. Can he do that? You bet your ass he can. So
I'm going to start. I have an idea. You know, I'm going to start wearing the cutest thing I can get into, just so people take pictures of me and put me on things to get more publicity. That's what I'm going to do. Hey, yeah, you like my tattoos? Cool. Look, check this one out. Put this on your book over there. That's going to be my new marketing.
And when your thirsty sales come hunting for me, I got some books I want to sell you.
That's right. Yeah, check these books out.
You want my attention? Buy my library.
That's right.
Buy my library. Damn right.
Hey, man, look here. All bullshit aside, that whole library thing's dope. Like, selling your whole library, like digital library right now is banging for me, man. You know, I'm all about PDFs now.
Oh man, I love digital comics. I know everybody's not crazy about them. I love them because I can back so many more Kickstarters for the same amount of money. I've got hundreds and a nice, neat little file on the drive.
I would prefer you to have the physical book. All I'm saying is because right now, like, we can't ship to Australia out of the US right now without paying an exorbitant amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's really stupid. It's like,
oh, I got a buddy in Australia. I want his book so bad,
right.
But like, I'm waiting until there's enough to buy at one time that it's worth the
it used to be $40 to $60 is what it used to be. Okay. And I'm okay with it. Whatever. You know what I mean? I eat most of that cost. But at the same time, now there's that embargo that's been on there since like February or September of last year. So it's more expensive now than it's ever been because you can't ship priority to Australia. So now
if you don't ship priority, if you just ship regular, it's not terrible. Go to pirate ship
anymore. At USPS, they will not let you.
Yeah, they will. That's
okay. I just tried.
Did you? Shit,
Again
it's like a day-to-day thing, honestly. It's
oh man, it's a person-to-person who's working the counter thing.
What kind of shit is that?
Oh, I have had so much trouble. I have had, like, when I was shipping out my first book, I would have such wildly differing prices depending on who was working and who was at the desk. But, like, I learned people's schedules just so I could go when Denise was working and get the better price from her.
We jumped on Pirate Ship.
Yeah, I was just saying that. Pirate Ship is the way to go.
Exactly. So we jumped on Pirate Ship to do everything.
Yeah.
And even there, maybe it's just location, but they're yoking my price up ridiculously to send over there. So I have like 10 packages to send that I'm literally waiting for and I keep updating people, you know what I'm saying? I let people know, you know, their stuff's ready. I'm trying to wait, you know what I mean? Because it's, you know, because I was only charging people $25 for shipping over there. So I was eating like $15 every time, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it was more about getting our product in people's hands than worrying about the little bit of money we were losing. And now that they've raised the price, I've just been like, well, we got to wait. But what we did was we built these PDF packages for people overseas, and they're so much cheaper. We do it for like $30. Like I said, I'd much rather them have my physical copies in their hands.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been doing this, you know, a little over a year now, and thankfully been doing well. But we're learning that I would much rather people have my product and see my product than worried about the little bit of dollar value, because it's the long game. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. If you get them hooked on your story, they're going to keep coming back. Absolutely. And that's what I want. I want you coming back for every issue of Green Zone that comes out. For
sure. I'm excited about the Green Giant thing just because you got a lizard guy with a cop belt.
Oh, man. I'm so excited about this story, man. It is such a cool world, and it just lends itself to so many cool stories. And, I mean, it's a world full of, you know, anybody can be born with superheroes, like mutants in Marvel. Like, anybody can be born with genetic anomalies. But as soon as they realize you're a genome, you lose your citizenship and your right to vote, and you're out. Like, you're pushed into the blocks, which is like the superpowered ghetto. And if you want to get out of the blocks, you want a green card to work, you want to vote, you want to own property, you have to prove you're one of the good ones and serve the greater good for 5 years. So you got people joining the police force and the fire department, and the Marines, and this follows a group of new recruits on the police force on their first day. And, you know, one of them's an 8-foot tall lizard. One of them is this girl covered in spikes all over. If she bumps into somebody on the subway, she could go to prison for unlawful use of supernatural force.
Oh, I'm so in, dude. I'm so in.
Such a cool.
You know, we started doing. Kara was the first person we ever had cosplay for us, and it was the coolest thing because I remember Jim introduced me to cosplaying covers, and I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So as we're going forward, though, I'm like, you know, in BGD we've got human characters too. Well, if it hops, I don't have humans in that world, so I'm trying to figure out who's dressing as a bunny to be on my
I'm sitting there thinking through. I'm like, I know I could build a Virgil suit for an 8-foot tall lizard that I could put somebody in.
Yes.
Like, I've got the skills. I could craft it. But I'm like, man, that's going to be well over $1,000, and that suit's going to stink after the first time it's worn.
Man, but
and
you know
like,
how much attention you're going to get from it?
Oh, man, 8-foot lizard walking around the con. Like, my stepdaughter's already working on, like, the wig for Bellamy with the spikes and stuff.
Yeah.
because, you know, she's short. I'm like, if I put my son in the Virgil costume, like they would be the right height difference. You know, she'd be at his elbow with this giant suit on.
Yeah, stuff like that's so cool. Like we take for granted how far we've come. Like, right now we just did so we did a wraparound cover for Greed, and it was a lot of fun. We did this like Mortal Kombat homage for Greed. So this for BGD 2 right now, our wraparound is a bust. It's just a bust, and the front of it is closed, and the back of it is wild and it's open. You know what I mean? But it's so much fun to see the different styles that people are doing for covers. We did a really dope one that's like a blacklight cover that April did. You know, she was like, I'm just going to color it blacklight. And it came out that it works. Like, it looks super, super dope. She's an awesome artist, guys. If you get the opportunity to check out April Reyna, she's such a great human being, right? Just a legitimate human being. But yeah, you know, so I'm real grateful to hang out with you guys. It's been such a blast. And you know I'm a little bit energy. I have a lot of, presence, but that's why Greg and I get along so well, because I'll just talk and he's like, God damn, is this fucker ever going to be done?
You brought up your your bunny book.
Yeah.
And one of your fans hits me up and he's like, so are you working on this book? And I'm like, no, I'm on that book. And he's like, well, you should do a cosplay of this. And I'm like, but it's not human. It's a bunny. Well, but still, you could do it like this. And he's like sending me all these images from like Lola Bunny and shit. And I'm like, he has not hired me to do this. But you could do blah, blah. But like any other artist, you have to bring like people think that with cosplayers they could just like bully you into like doing whatever costume they want. It's like that's not how this works. Right. If he does not want me to do it,
you can spend a month or thousands of dollars and do this to make me happy.
We only did 2 covers for this, and that's why we literally did a show about this. We only did 2 covers because so many people reached out and they're like, "Hey, are you getting Trevor for this book? Hey, are you getting Mike for this book? Hey, are you getting Steph for this book?" And you're like, yeah, hold on, man. This is the preview. It's the 15. It's an 8-page preview of the book. We're just giving you a taste of it. Relax. I have. It's so cool. It's so cool, the different fans and stuff. But what I've noticed now in putting out the quantity of books we do, there's expectation, and that's something that people don't. I didn't know would even occur. You know what I mean? And it's like most people I know, they do a book every 4 to 6 months. That's generally how people put out books that I know of. Except for with the exception of Wendy and Jim and even Tom is like 4 to 6 months now. You know what I mean? So it's like, but I was like, when people started going, "Are you ready yet?" I was like, "What? Or when's your next book?" 6 weeks. Is it this book? Well, no, it's bi-monthly. We're ready for this book, and you're like, oh, okay, but we have a schedule.
They don't know how long stuff takes to make.
Right, for sure. So it's literally like, Mr. Fish is like, I got a book done in a week. I'm like, oh, fuck me. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, so I'm
12 really days, over 3 weeks, but 12 days, yeah.
Right. So I'm really excited that people love it, and I'm excited that people want to reach out to people. Like they do it to Steph. They do it to, they do it to Bladen. They reach out and they're like, hey, but be kind. If you would like to see somebody work on a book, dude, holler at me. You know what I mean?
Go to creative.
Holler at the people making the book.
Right. Yeah, holler at me and I'll reach out. You know what I mean?
Don't tell me that writer needs to hire me. Tell that writer he needs to hire me.
Most of these people work with us continually anyway. That's why we call it a team. We have a team. So Kara's the only cosplayer we use, generally speaking. So it's like if we're gonna have one, we'll reach out to her. You know what I mean? Don't go and be like, hey, you need to be on this book. Hey, fucker, slow down. Slow your roll. We appreciate you, but slow down. We've got it. We'll handle it. You know what I mean? And especially like we had somebody reached out to, I want to say it was, Frank 40. Somebody reached out to Frank 40 and was like, hey, are you doing another cover for Dustin? And he was like, well, I will if you ask. And he was like, well, you need to do one. And it was like, that's not how this even works. You don't tell people what they need or do not need to do. You know what I mean? So we will continue to put out the best people we can. We will continue working with the teams we have. You know what I mean? I have 29 people on our team right now. 29 people. Chances are you're going to see these loving people again. You know what I
Can
mean?
I ask a question? Do those 29 people like to eat?
Right. Right. Exactly.
So I
Jesus.
have a couple of people on my campaign complaining. They're like, so are you going to offer an art book with all the covers? And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, do you have any idea? Like, I would have to charge you $5,000 for a copy of this book.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
insane. Like, the book is thick. It's not going to be a standard comic because it's, bigger. It's
Right.
I got a lot of covers. And really, you just want expensive art for free. And I just can't afford, unfortunately. I would love to just be able to do that, but you're going to devalue these creators. So, like, people just really don't understand. Like, when you hire Shikari,
Oh my gosh.
Shikari is like insanely expensive.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Let's
if I'm
really get
literally
buy-in
spending
or-
over $1,000 on a
Absolutely.
cover, like, I need
Absolutely.
to be able to recoup that cost.
For sure. That's like going, hey, look, we're gonna go get Ebass, and then we're gonna go grab Greg Horn, and we're gonna go over here, and now we're gonna grab, Ryan Kincaid, and we're gonna pick up, even though we know these people, and this is a myth that needs to be debunked. It is needed to be debunked forever. Just because we hang out with people and you catch us chilling with people and we're friends with people because fans follow us, just because you know that we're friends with folks, we value our friends. We value them. So they're paid. Okay. Our friends are paid. And when all of our team is paid, we consider them all friends. Let's put that out there real quick before that comes up. So everyone is paid on our teams. But we don't ask for discounts. We don't ask for special treatment. Okay. These are our friends. We value their time. We value their work, So if you go, hey, look, are you doing 10 covers? Chances are if I didn't add someone, it's because the funds weren't there to add them. It wasn't that I didn't want to add them. It's because the funds weren't there to add them. And then, there's also, it's the fact it's the business. Stuff happens and you have to pivot. You have to pivot to fix things that happen, Like BGD was not coming out this month. It was coming out in 2 months. And I had a 116 page anthology that was coming out this month. But we moved it. You know what I mean? We moved it because we had some other things going on. So when you ask people if they're doing a cover, yeah, man, we want them. We'll holler at them. You know what I mean? Yeah. When I want to get the Terrapin Tortoise Terror book in Ethereal, I'm going to reach out to Greg because I'm going to reach out to him for a turtle book one day, regardless. That's going to happen. But there's fun things. There's a cool way to talk to people. Then there's a shitty way to talk to people. Trish talking about, do you need 40 covers? You don't need 40 fucking covers. That's choice.
Actually, for our Ink 2 Kickstarter, that's gonna be like in the fall.
Yeah,
it's gonna be our first Kickstarter that we're gonna have like multiple covers, and it's only because Adam Fields he did
absolutely
the one cover, but it's different masks. So
dope. For sure.
All you do is switch out the
so swipes. That's dope, dude. I love that.
Yeah, so that's like
it goes hand in hand with layers, kids. Swipes. Make sure you remember swipes. It goes hand in hand with that.
I'm like, oh, I don't have enough money to pay you for all 4 or 5 of those.
5, 6, 7.
All I have to do is like swipe it, and I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Well, you joke, and it's funny because people don't realize it, But like if you look at Kara's beautiful campaign, and you look at I use more than 60% of the people on that campaign. So I know what it costs them to do that campaign. Be appreciative. Don't be like, are we getting more? Be appreciative of your artists and your writers and what we bring, because we try to bring you things to bring you happiness and bring you out of the day-to-day norm, So going, hey, look, I've got a $10,000 limit so Shikari, no joke. We'll be honest. Is 5 digits and up. That's absolutely all day long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're talking 4 digits, 4 digits. Easy. Same thing with like Ebbas. If you're, you know what I mean? You start talking about tiers of price with artists and stuff. You pay for what you get. I mean, it's beautiful artwork. You know what I mean? So you have to understand that, let's say that instead of doing 15 covers, one day she decides she's going to do Ebbas, Shikari, and Lord Greg Horn. Okay. you're already at almost $6,000 in cover prices.
Mhm.
And a lot of folks have their, they don't even meet that in a campaign. You know what I mean? So you're like, holy cow, how did that happen? All that shit comes out of pocket, kids. All that shit is out of pocket first. All these artists, because like I said, we run in a tribe where everybody's paid ahead of time. All these folks are paid. So it's like the Kickstarter's making it so we can live after we've paid all these bills. You know what I mean?
Well, so I want you to kind of take a moment on that, because you brought up something really important, that when you do make money, oh, but you made so much money. No, I didn't make shit. I paid for your Gemini mailers so that they wouldn't end up getting shipped like crap. I paid for the artist. I paid for the paper. I paid for the printer. We are a tribe. And I love how you say that, because this isn't just about me being able to pay my mortgage for the month, because sorry, but when you're doing this full time, you cannot go work a full-time job and create and promote and do all that stuff. So I want to make sure that my printer is taken care of and the boxes are taken care of. Geminis are actually made by a small company, a small family-owned company, and they created this design for comic books. I want to support that. Their stuff is good. It does the job well. All of these artist creators, you don't want an artist that has to rely on his day job.
That's right.
And if you do have an artist that relies on their day job, guess what? When they're shorthanded and they have to work overtime, your project is going to wait.
Yeah.
I want to make sure my creators, my artists are paid so that I can have them doing the art for the campaign.
And we're paying their mortgages. Those are things that people need to remember. We are the key point about the teammates that I bring up all the time when you guys hear me live is because I view them like that. They're my friends. They're my family. They are our tribe.
Mm-hmm.
They keep food in front of my children, and I can't stress to you that that's the most important thing in the world to me. They take care of my family. And those are things that I wouldn't trade for the whole world. So fans, I love fans. I love our group of people that is growing and getting bigger and bigger by the day. But I want them to realize that it doesn't just go to paying for this book. It goes for paying for lifestyles for people, cars, water, electric. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't even say lifestyles. It's more like necessities.
Right.
You're paying for my lifestyle.
It's not like anybody's big balling. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
And then shows are a big one. Are you going here? Are they paying for me to go there? I mean, No, it's funny because people don't understand the difference. I've headlined 3 shows in the past year. Headline means where I've been paid to be there. You know what I mean? Which is amazing for us. In our very first year, we're getting paid to be places, which we're very grateful, very thankful for the kindnesses. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But then there are shows where, I don't fly. I don't fly because I have so much product. You know what I mean? So I drive everywhere. So if I'm driving like Vegas, we're driving there's 5 of us that are driving to Vegas, this year. So it's literally like a 28-hour drive. All that stuff costs money. It costs time. We have a teammate that can't drive their own vehicle, so they're renting a car. That's like $1,700 just for the trip. So I mean, I think that goes hand in hand with that question when people are like I said, I dropped all my prices on my books because I'm trying to get them in shops. Most shops can't afford to put $20 to $30 books in. So I've tried to drop my prices down considerably. You know what I mean?
So you might want to wait then. So that's what I would suggest. Don't get it into shops right now. Especially right now with the Diamond, Penguin, all the bullshit going on with the stores.
For sure.
I would say wait until you have a good chunk of issues out and then go to Source Point and have someone else put them out later on your behalf. I wanted to bring this up earlier when we were talking about digital comics.
For sure.
Please be careful. Read your contracts. There are some companies that require an exclusivity contract with them, which means if you put out your book digitally through their shop, you cannot put out physical copies. You can't do Kickstarter. You can't do shit. You've lost everything.
That's insane. Thank you for. I didn't know that. Greg, did you know that was a thing?
No.
Well, that's like the condom, right? You'd rather know than not have it. And I'm very grateful now. Well, because we publish now, so I refuse to the shenanigans. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
that's crazy, guys. Remember that. Look at the contracts, because I would have never even thought. Because like everybody that works with us has the rights. Like Kara, if she wanted to right now, could make anything she wanted to with our characters because she's on our team. That's how we view it. You're allowed to do whatever you want with our characters. You know what I mean? Because that's, in my opinion, our team brings these characters to life. You know what I mean? So
But
if
you
you
need to
come
be
in,
careful with that, because let's say that you put out a children's book and someone decides to turn it into pornography. You got to be careful with that. Originals are usually pretty good. I'm cool with people selling prints of like the stuff that they do for us, but you do need to watch yourself in regards to legal terms. My big thing is I would like to get Fire Bitch and some of these things out to a studio to go into animation, that sort of thing. I think Fire Bitch would make a great animated series.
that's such a fun book. That's a fun book, dude. I don't
Thank
give a shit. That's a fun book.
Well, that's what we're going for. I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it's definitely comedy based.
For sure. Yeah,
So-
absolutely. But yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head with that. That's such an interesting thing. The fine print, you know what I mean? The fine print is so important because like right now, with everything going on with us,
Mhm.
here shortly, everyone will have contracts versus
Mhm.
and I love talking to everybody, you know what I mean? But shortly everybody will have contracts from us. And then you've got people that are stepping in, like we've got executive producers, we've got art directors, all kinds of stuff that are coming up right now. So it's very cool. And all that goes in your credits pages and all that jazz.
Yep.
But there's titles, and you have to be careful what you give people, the abilities that they have. Like right now, I still have to. I fuck around with Bladen because he forgets that he can reach out and go, "Hey, can you guys change this page for this?" He still comes to me and he's like, "Hey, Dustin, can you ask so and so to change this page?" And I'm like, "Hold on, man. Everybody knows that you're working with that you can do that." You know what I mean? So
Right.
exercise your abilities, and we've gotten much larger than I had planned in the time period that I planned. You know what I mean? I was excited, but at the same time, we ran really quick. So it's like, okay, well now I still depend on people that have been doing it longer than me to go. Like I've got a couple people that are really, really sweet to us that will be like, "Hey, Dustin, make sure you're doing this. Make sure you're doing that." Like because as much as we learn, there's still things that we don't know. Like
Mhm.
knowing that people can go around and fiddle with your stuff and tell you can't use it. Like right now, we do store exclusives. So for you guys that are doing store exclusives, I have this opinion where if you do a store exclusive, that's your exclusive. I'm not going to sell your store exclusive. That's yours. You paid us for the right to have a store exclusive. Exclusivity. You sell it at your shop. That's the only place it can be sold, unless
Yes.
someone buys it. You know what I mean? Then they can sell it.
They can sell it in the aftermarket, absolutely.
Yeah, right. So I'm cool with that, but make sure you guys understand those things, that people they want the exclusivity. They want to know that their shop has something that Joe Blow's shop doesn't have, and I think it's interesting, the concepts that people are doing right now, because it's become big in the past like 6 years. Even groups are banding together to put together funds to pay for artists to do covers, and it's
Now, with that, let's take a moment and touch on that, because
Sure.
I will tell you right now that if you are an artist that shares the work that you do for me, I am more inclined to use you again. If I hire you because you're a big name and your art is not the best damn thing in the whole freaking world, and you did not share that and you didn't want to, push that, I even heard that there's an artist out there telling people, don't buy from the campaign, buy my comps. And you bet your ass if I find out anyone's doing that to me, I will never hire you again.
Holy shit balls. That's terrible. Like right now we have a fun thing. And we have a team member that works with Kara and I both in Steph Wilson. And he's the greatest. Like he and Carrie are the greatest people, but they're on social media. Like it's just like us. We use it. It's a job for us, so he's on there religiously talking about the projects he's on all the time. That is worth so much more than any other aspect of this that I could explain, because they reach different fan bases. They're talking to different folks, and not just on their page, but they go in and share it to page after page after page after page to promote your content. I was reprimanded for Kara's cover, and I never told her about it.
Oh, tell me about it. I want to know.
I was reprimanded for the cover, not because of the content of the cover or anything like that. I was reprimanded because I took the space, and it's a mutual friend, so names are not going to come into this. But I took the space and I put an ad for her and Alfred on the back of the book.
Oh,
so it's,
thank you.
Yeah, so anybody that has your cover of the first issue has an ad for your business on the back of it.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that. That was so kind.
Well, but that's me as a person. I didn't think anything of it. You know what I mean? And they were like, "Hey, did you charge for that ad space?" I was like, "What?" And they were like, "You charge people for stuff like that?" And I was like, "No, that's a member of my team. I'm supporting their business." And they were like, "Well, you should make money like that." And I was like, "No, that's not a thing, because if our friends have books, there's no reason for us not to support their books or support their industry, because at the end of the day, it's how we treat people that garners people's respect. You know what I'm saying? We have got to be good to each other. And like I said, I'm not saying you got to be good to everybody under the sun, but once you have your tribe, you have to take care of your tribe. Take care of your people, because they feed your family, they feed your kids. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh, they feed your fucking dog if you don't have any kids. It's all these little things. Like Greg, I'll talk about Greg all the time. I will bring up turtle jokes. I will bring up shit constantly. It's just, it's such an important factor that we look after one another, because there's a lot of people out there that are going to try to take advantage of you in this business. I lost $1,500, or no, it ended up being $2,700 to a company that said they were going to advertise our books when we first started. $2,700. Well, I didn't know anybody to tell me better. You know what I mean?
I will never. You'll get these people on Kickstarter. Hey, I'm with a local blah blah blah.
Right.
Report that shit as spam.
Right.
They are
Absolutely.
never worth their gold. If you look and see, well, we can share it to our Instagram. We can share it to our Twitter. Go to their Twitter and see what they have. They'll have 5 likes, and it's the exact same bots doing the same thing. And go to your community. We're a comic book community. Come to our community.
For sure. I didn't know any better. And, Heather and I were, it's just the two of us. And we were a total team of like 5 when we put out the first issue, So we were putting this stuff together. And this dude reached out and he was like, "Hey, look, I'll promote your book. Do you want to work with me promoting your book?" And I was like, "Okay, well, what does that cost?" He was like, "Well, it's this, 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 and this." And I was like, "Well," what he did was he used a higher tier comic book by a very well-known name that they represent to tell me what they could make happen for my book. And I got excited, rose-colored glasses. I'm in here for the first time. I've owned a comic shop. Now I'm putting out my own book. I don't know what to think about this. And all of a sudden I'm $1,500 this month, $2,700 this month, whatever, what have you. And the book only made like $2,600. And I was like, it was my very first issue. And I was like, man, and that was not talking after the campaign or anything, but on Kickstarter, it only made like $2,600. And I was like, dude, this is really messed up. And he was like, oh, it'll be better next time. I was like, I don't know, this is really messed up. I'm not getting what I want. I'm not seeing any posts from you anywhere, da-da-da-da. And then lo and behold, there was never anything going on. Like, I was paying all this money and nothing was happening. And it happens so frequently because there's always somebody who wants to make a buck off your hard work.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's really crazy that it exists, but it does. And you'll quickly find where you fit and where you don't fit in this industry. Not everybody's your friend, but not everybody's out to get you either. You know what I mean? So as long as you treat people with respect, walk in and, recognize, like I had an artist come up to me. They came up to me, Ryan Kincaid, and Mike DeBolfo, and we were at a show. We were just bullshitting at a show. Artist comes up and they're like, "Hey, look, I know what kind of book you got coming out, the dinosaur thing. I want to do it. It's $800 a cover." And they walked away, and I'll never forget the entire group of people that had been there that have known me for years and had been in this industry a long time. Are like, "Hey, look, don't pay that fucker $800." You know what I mean? And I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you serious?" Because I'm looking for, when Beach D came out, I was looking for the best covers I could put out. And they're like, yeah, don't do that. And so then I find out that the artist only has 2 covers out, and it was like you have to do your time. You know what I mean? You can't just walk in and be like, I'm worth the same amount as this A-list artist that's been doing this. You know what I mean? Because trust me, there have been plenty of artists that come to us. My inbox is stupid. I'm sure Kara's is stupid too. My inbox is stupid. So it gets kind of silly with the amount of emails you get and the amount of people that want to work. And I appreciate the hustle. There's nothing wrong with the hustle. It's the fact that you have to understand your own value. You know, what do you bring to the market? Can you honestly walk up to us and go, hey, look, it's a $600, $700 cover, whereas we could go get, Ryan Kincaid or someone around that era or period, that level of skill for the same amount of money. You know what I mean? So, or
I look at when I'm doing a cover, when I'm, doing like hiring someone for a cover, I look at how much they cost and I compare it to how many books I need to sell to cover the cost of that person.
Yep, for sure.
And sometimes you don't see it. Sometimes they'll sell on the back end. But if they're not promoting it and they don't have a fan base that does purchase, then I'm sorry, I can't use you,
And that's the way you guys have to do it. You have to look at the cost to gain ratio.
Yes.
And it's not that we don't like the artist. It's the bottom dollar that decides whether we can use you or not. You know what I mean?
So if you notice on this current campaign, I don't have Steph Wilson. And I love Steph. I love Carrie Ann. They're fantastic at promoting, but this is a horror book, and I just didn't feel that his art style fit with this particular title.
Right.
Fire Bitch, he's got a Fire Bitch cover all the time because it's fun, it's quirky, it's that Steph Wilson style. In this case, this book is not a Steph Wilson style book.
For sure. And that's important, guys. Don't just, and that's another thing. Like I said, I have a whole team of folks, but they pick and choose the titles they're on with us, because we trust their art styles. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If I come out and I put out a book that, like The Listener, I don't put any nudes on The Listener. I don't bring pinup artists on that book. You know what I mean? It's not because of the fact that the content, it's just like Kara said, the content is what goes into it. You know what I mean? Like if you have, it's a World War II or not, it's spirits, it's monsters and stuff like that. We brought on, I remember, and it was such a conversation when Mike asked me if Marissa could do covers for The Listener. I was like, cool, yeah, because you're my friend and she's working with you. You know what I mean? Let's do that. That was the first time I'd ever met her. Mm-hmm. But he was like, I'm not going to do nudes on The Listener because I feel like it's too top shelf for me to put nudes on the book. And I was like, okay, that makes perfect sense to me. But I had to hear it, right? I had to hear from someone in the industry that knew whether or not it would sell or not and what we should put on it. You know what I mean? So if you look at our Marissa Pope covers for like The Listener, the very first issue is one of the wins. It's not even a chick. You know what I mean? It's a wolf on the cover, So then when we went forward, we started doing these very tasteful covers from her, in that book. And they were a lot of fun. And people responded really well to it, because we're adding culture to the stylistic covers that we were putting out. It was a lot of fun, like she'll be back for Greed. She'll probably be back for the next issue of Listener. But yeah, you have to fit, man. You have to fit. You can't take this, but art style is different. If you have a person that likes to do pinups and that's their zone, don't ask them to try to come out if they're not comfortable coming out of that zone, because now you're not going to get the quality of the content that you want.
And don't force your content. So that's another thing. Like, so in our Ruth story, she is not, we never show her topless because she is such a victimized character. I don't want to do that to her. So for Greed, you wouldn't portray any of those characters in a sexual manner.
However, for Listener, I wouldn't. For Greed, I do nudes for Greed.
Do you?
I only for Greed. I don't do it for The Listener. I don't do them at all for The Listener. I do nudes on Greed, but only on the character Lilith because of what she is. You'll never see nudes on any other character in that book.
See, exactly.
it's the fact, I mean, and we quote it in the book, she's touted as the Queen of Horrors. You know, that's how the character, hey, look, it's written in the Bible too. That's where the shit came from. You know? So if I felt like if we were going to run with it, we should run all the way with it. But like, you'll never see Lee or Arya, you know what I mean? Unless it's a swipe. Unless somebody's screwing around with the swipe, I'm okay with that. But it'll never be a mainstream cover. Like never a cover A, never a cover B, or anything like that. It'll have to be an exclusive that somebody wants.
Well, and you can do that. That's the beauty of this, is you can do that. You can do that exclusive cover that's that one weird one-off that no one ever does.
Right. And I love it. I love the fact, like right now, I look up to you and Alfred. I look up to Wendy and Bill. You know, I'm always proud of the people that have come before me. You know what I mean? Because it shows people where they can be. Like 10 years from now, like when we were kids, Turtles came out, Street Sharks came out, and there were a couple other really cool anthropomorphic stories that came out. Space Jam came out. That shit went away because people started dissing like the furry crowd. Like it went away, you know, except for Turtles. Yeah. Most of the other stuff disappeared, you know? So then now when we were talking about putting BGD out, I was like, now's the perfect time to put out this type of book, because Garrett had just put out the Warcorns. People enjoyed Warcorns. You know, I thought that was cool. And then he also had put out, I think Good Boy came out around the same time. I think it came out around the same time as BGD came out, which was cool. And the responses were great to that. So I was like, well, people are opening more and more. And I appreciate that, Trish. But people are learning more and more that we can show content that previously would have been unavailable. You know, now we can show, holy cow, there's a dinosaur stripper. And people are, instead of shitting a brick about it, they're like, man, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, though. That is pretty freaking cool.
So we've had fun with that. And then it was like, you know, in that vein, I was, you know, I had somebody ask, they were like, are you worried about putting out If It Hops? And I was like, you know what? I honestly think If It Hops is going to do really well. I think that people are going to, you know, vibe with it, you know, because of the fact people loved Lola Bunny, right? Lola Bunny was so popular. Disney hated Lola Bunny. That's why you didn't see merch for the character for years and years. Or not Disney, fucking Warner Brothers. And then you got Zootopia, and people absolutely loved If It Hops. Rule 34, fucking Judy Hopps. Okay, that's an all-day conversation.
Oh, it's huge. People love that.
But Greg's got to go. Bye, Greg. Anyway, but yeah, so, you know, getting into that, you know, I thought that people would vibe with an adult version of Zootopia. You know, I was like, you know, hey, look, differences and stuff, you know, unique storylines and stuff like that. But it's so much, the outcry for Zootopia was huge. Yeah. You know, and then you brought out Sing, and people shit about Sing, right? Now you're about to get Sing 2 out. And I was like, man, people are really feeling the anthropomorphic books. I'm okay with the bunny. They like the dinosaurs. Now we'll give them the bunny. You know what I mean? And
they do. They want me on a cover, by the way.
Yeah, let's go. So I'm already reaching out. I just didn't know how to word that conversation. Hey, Kara, can you dress as a bunny? I was like, how does this even? So yeah, we'll end up having that conversation in the next couple of months, I'm sure. But I was literally like, I was trying to figure out how to approach anyone. Like, BGD was easy. BGD was super easy to approach people about because it's very punk, it's very fun, it's very just go, you know. Whereas BGD, or where If It Hops, I was like, oh man, let's delve into the deep end of this, you know, anthropomorphic pool and figure out how we can make people comfortable. And we put out that image of.
Did you just say how to make people comfortable?
Comfortable, yes. Comfortable. So we put out that image of Agent C on the side of the building in black and white, and people shit about it. Like, people were all over it, and it was so exciting. So then we put it out in color, and all of a sudden, I've only got like 40 copies of it out of the 100 that are left. And I was like, man, I feel good about it, because that's what the preview was for, to see if people would vibe with the book. You know, because like we mentioned earlier, putting out a comic book's expensive. You know, so here I am doing an 8-page preview for this. You know, an 8 of the first 24-page book. So to see if people vibe with it, and yeah, mad fun. Like you said, Greg's got to go. Kara, I'm so excited for y'all. The campaign looks beautiful. I can't wait to see how far you guys get with this one.
Me too. Everybody sharing is Kara Ink.
Yes, it's so. And then Wendy's campaign going on right now. She's doing amazing things. Oh my god, like music and stuff with that shit, and the different type of vinyls that they're doing. That's fucking.
I know, it's exciting. I'm digging it. I always love Wendy's work.
Dude,
I talk to her as often as I can. She's just incredible.
Beautiful human being. And then you've got Trish, who's in the comments still, who's doing their awesome campaign right now, Bing and Fetch. I've got the BGD stuff going on. I think that if you guys enjoy us, you should go and check each other out. Like I said, run through the tribe, man. Check out the books that are in it. You'll enjoy all of them, I promise. I mean, I'm the newest member of this group of people. So if you guys enjoy my stuff, you'll definitely love everybody that's come before me, I'm sure. Like Karen mentioned, Fire Bitch is super funny. Like, super funny. You guys will really dig that one. The whole Cray Cray thing had me rolling on the floor. So, it's such a fun book, and then, like I said, Wendy and the Fairies, amazing, beautiful artwork, guys. Just absolutely. And cosplayers galore on this one right now, dude. So cool. And Greg and his terrible terrapins and whatnot. We love them. We absolutely love them. I am more than excited to see what goes on. I actually have an art piece for Greg's next campaign.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about. So, yeah, man, I think that Cade is the perfect person for a turtle with a knife to go after. So we'll see how that pans out. And then, we're very grateful for you having us on, and letting us chat here for, oh my God, almost 3 fucking hours.
Right.
So, but thank you again for having us. We're very appreciative of everything you do. And, and you're all cool about it. You're like, yeah, it's all nonchalant shit, but people pay attention. People pay attention to you guys, the SeerNova team, and I'm a big fan of Adam's work. He's a friend of mine, so I'm so grateful, the cool stuff you guys are doing with him. And we're about to put him on a couple more covers here shortly. So thanks again, guys. Have a great evening. And I really appreciate your time again. Kara, we'll talk soon.
Yes, hit me up. Let's chat. I'd love to powwow with you and just like swap info and stuff.
I'm about it. Be good, guys.